We'll call the Thursday, September 14th, 2023 board meeting to order. Roll call starting on my left, please.
Capel here.
Minter here.
Jumati here.
Cole here.
All right here.
Certify the posting of the meeting.
I certify that on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board Budget Meeting for Thursday, September 14th, 2023 was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 3:32 p.m., posted at Quick Trip LLC at 3:45 p.m., posted at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 3:55 p.m., emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 3:28 p.m.
Item number 4, approve the agenda.
Motion to approve is presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Supervisor Cole, second by Supervisor Bauerheit to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, do we have any orange cards?
None received.
Then we won't proceed with the reading. The board will also take comment from the public on agenda items as called by the chair, but not during citizen comment. Please note that once the board begins discussion on an agenda item, no further comment will be allowed from the public on that issue. No action contemplated except possible referral to a future agenda. Item number 6, informational updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Starting on my right with Supervisor
I have nothing.
Bauerheit. Supervisor Cole.
No, I have nothing other than just be sure to watch the mural in progress. It's kind of a fun thing, and he has started the painting and will continue. So you're welcome to come and watch him paint and ask questions.
Do we want to do a reminder on the brush pickup? Get your brush by the curbside in time for the pickup.
If you're on the west side by September 24th, if you're on the east side by October 1st. And the information is also on, as far as size and piles, is on the website.
Okay. Supervisor Minter, anything?
If you're interested in constructing a scarecrow, check out the library website. The Friends of the Library is having a scarecrow walk in October. There's still time to sign up to have a scarecrow at the library out back. I believe that's by the 25th of September to sign up. Scarecrows are constructed and the walking will begin in early October and will run for a couple of weeks. So check the library website for the scarecrow walk.
Okay. Supervisor Capel?
I have nothing.
Okay. Then we'll move on to discuss and possible action on the following items. Number 7, discussion and possible action. Review of the 2022 annual financial report and management communication with Amber Danielewski, Senior Manager for Clifton Larson Allen, LLP, via WebEx. Amber, you're on. Hello.
Sounds good. That's good. I'm going to attempt to share my screen so I can walk you through the audit report, and then open it. And as there's questions, just let me know as we go along. So let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So for those wanting to follow on in your book, I'll try and remember to give you page numbers. So just past the table of contents is our independent auditor's report. So on page 1, that letter starts. It's about a 3 or 4 page letter that summarizes all the required communication that we have to give the board as part of our audit per governmental auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards. And so it can be a little lengthy. I'm just going to point out two spots of that letter. The first one, it starts out right away with the audit opinion. We audit the financial statements of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and then the aggregate remaining funds of the town for December 31st, 2022. And in our opinion, the financial statements that we audited present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the town and those individual funds. What that means is that we didn't find anything in our testing that we determined to be materially misstated that didn't end up being corrected, and including the footnote disclosures. It's quote unquote the clean opinion that everybody that has an audit strives to obtain. We follow governmental auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards for the audit. When governmental auditing standards fall in, there's a little bit more in terms of test of laws and compliance with regulations kind of stuff. We test everything on a sample basis, and we design our audit on a risk-based approach. So when we come in, usually in December or January, we talk with various town personnel and read the board minutes and review financial data as of that time and determine what activity went on during the year and where we need to focus our testing. We also walk through internal controls to determine where maybe there's more controls or less controls, and that it also affects where and what we test. And again, we test on a sample basis. We won't test 100% of the disbursements you make or 100% of the receipts that come in. We test on a sample basis based on that risk assessment. In 2022, there was a new accounting standard that went into effect for leases. And so there is this emphasis of matter paragraph that's added to the opinion letter when there is such a thing, like a new accounting standard that went into effect. Later on in the report, I'll walk you through, there was basically a lease receivable that ended up needing to be set up as a result of this new rule. I will then move to page 9. And this is your balance sheet as of December 31st. So this will be basically your cash balances at year end, your payable balances at year end, and your ending fund balance. So I'm going to focus mainly on the general fund and the TIF fund. Your general fund here in the further left column, you'll see just under $4.5 million in cash on hand at the end of the year and $2 million in taxes receivable. Those were the majority of your assets. You had just under $7 million in assets in your general fund at the end of the year. You had $200,000 in payables at the end of the year. A little bit of some payroll withholdings and a few other liabilities to add up to $231,000 in liabilities. Then this section called deferred inflows of resources. This is basically like deferred revenues that have been earned potentially that just haven't been collected within a certain period of time after year end. The biggest amount isn't necessarily anything that just hasn't been received before year end, but it's basically when you guys approved the levy in November and December, that's for the next year. So it does get shown as receivable because it's been levied, but because it doesn't actually show it's for the next year's budget, it gets shown as deferred inflows here. So that's $3.6 million of your total deferred inflows. There's a few receivables. This $50,000 deferred, that's related to the gazebo project, if my memory serves me correctly, where you were getting some donations, but some didn't all come in from the people giving you those donations within 60 days of year end. So then that'll be shown as revenue now in 23. The net difference ends up being your fund balance. So this is the balance to be carried forward to be used towards various expenditures. And as you can see here, there's various categories. So non-spendable, $37,000. This is property insurance, maybe conference fees, stuff that you paid for in 22, but for 23 activity. So basically, let's say you've already spent it, you can't, that's not available for you to spend it on any other expenditures. Restricted fund balance is funds that you've collected, but maybe the state or maybe somebody donating to you put restrictions on what you can spend it on. This $3 left is a little bit of tourism money that's restricted because, you know, the state restricts how you can use your room tax and, you know, where that money goes. At least for the part that's due to the, like visit Rome and those type items. Your committed funds, these are various carryovers that the board has approved over the years. The largest one of these is Syracuse. There's a lot more detail in the back that breaks down all the different balances and who has which one has what and how much was Syracuse and how much was maybe library or other areas that have carryovers that got approved. The $221,000 for assigned fund balance. This is primarily amounts that were used to help balance, or were going to be used on fund balance to cover 23 expenses. There's also, I can show you a page later on that gives you more details on that. Your unassigned fund balance, this is the amount that hasn't been assigned for anything else. This is your cash flow balance. This is what you can use for unanticipated expenditures that popped up in 23 now, or just, you know, truly to have some cushion in your balances rolling forward. One industry benchmark we always look when it comes to this amount is what percent of total expenditures is this amount? Because in theory, it's saying, okay, if you didn't get revenue coming in for X number of months, how many months could you last before you'd actually have to get revenue in, per se? Right now, you are at 41% of your current year expenditures, so you're sitting pretty good. Usually, the industry benchmark is anywhere from 15 to 25%. And every municipality kind of takes time to determine which side of that percentage do they want to be on. Do they want to be on the lower end, or do they want to be on the higher end? And it's all based on how each individual municipality has revenues coming in. So you're meeting your budget policy, which I believe is closer to the 25%. Any questions on the general fund balance sheet?
Yes, please, Amber. Could I ask you a question about the non-spendable? Could you just back up to that, please? What did you say that, that affects in the fund balance? What did that number come from, the 37,464?
Yeah, that's going to be like in December if you prepaid property insurance for 23. Because obviously that insurance coverage doesn't go into effect until the next year. It doesn't get shown as an expense until that actually happens.
Okay, and then going down to
And
the.
so it would be the same if you did, I know sometimes you might prepay for a conference in December.
Got it. Okay, conference prepay. All right, thank you.
Or health insurance. I think most
Dues.
of it was property insurance this year.
Dues or property insurance, okay. And then for the unassigned, with the benchmark, we had always established, or I don't know, currently in the last year, 17%,
17 to 24.
17 to 24. Okay, so you say that we have a pretty healthy then benchmark there, industry-wide. What do you see typically in the state for towns of our size, would you say, with our current evaluation? I mean, we have a pretty healthy evaluation for a town of our size. Do you say that that's a good, is there a standard for us? I mean, you say that that's pretty healthy, 41%. I mean, it's,
Yeah, the industry benchmark we usually look for is anywhere between 15 to 25%.
right, you said that.
And what you do to determine, if you really want to be closer to the 25 or to the 15%, and obviously your policy is 17 to 24, so you're kind of right in along with industry benchmarks, is it kind of depends on what your actual activities are. Are you pretty routinely getting cash coming in that, you're pretty flush and you're able to meet current cash flows without dipping into your reserves, or do you have long lags of time at the beginning of the year before you get a lot of your money in? If you have long lag times, you might want to be higher to that 25%. If you're getting pretty good cash receipts in, pretty steady receipts, you probably can be closer to the 17%. It just varies based on how your operations really are. Sometimes what we'll see is, if you're, like, let's say your state aids, you don't always get a lot of your state aids in until July and November. So if you were really stretched for cash, and because you're not going to get those monies until the second half of the year, you're going to want to keep a higher fund balance just to be able to make payroll necessarily, for example, or construction projects that might start early or whatever.
Construction projects.
But if you don't get a lot of state aid and you're primarily just tax revenue based, as long as you're getting good collections in January and February, or then you're probably sitting okay.
The other piece of that I always like to point out, good, bad, or indifferent, it's been past practice, but you're taking forward that unassigned prior year and using that in your general. You have no levy in your general. So, this past year, 1.6 of that was how you covered expenses within your general fund. And we also, we did much more road work this year that was not budgeted for, that would come out of that number also. Not still saying that there's money in that number, but just realizing you don't have any levy in general. You're carrying forward that balance to take care of your levy expenditures.
One other question, Amber. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
You're talking
Supervisor.
about unbudgeted expenditures.
No, I'm talking about your budgeted general fund. All expenditures in budgeted general fund are being,
Coming out of the unassigned?
the vast majority of them are, yes. You don't have any levy in that piece of the budget. You haven't for many years.
Okay.
Amber, one other question. Does this number in our unassigned in any way impact our rating with Moody?
They do look at it and they want to make sure that you're meeting your policy that you set. So you would want to make sure it stayed within your 17 to 24%. You wouldn't want it to ever drop below that. Otherwise, it could hurt you on the rating.
Right, but if it ever changed between the 41 and dropped down to 25, would that impact the rating in any way, shape, or form?
It would depend on if it was a constant trend or if it was kind of like a one-time deal and then you recovered it the next year.
But right now, because we have 41%, that's impacts the rating we currently have, but if it would change down to 25%, would that impact the rating?
Potentially, if it's a consistent decrease where you're truly, you can use some fund balance, but to help with budget holes, but you never want to constantly do that because it becomes a slippery slope, and then sooner or later you run out of fund balance, which then hurts your rating.
Even though we don't have a lot of debt?
Obviously, those are more questions for your bond counsel, but I do know that they look at how you're sitting and they kind of analyze, are you kind of steadily staying at 40 or, if you drop down to 35, they're probably not going to care.
That's what I was
if you're
curious.
showing you truly have a plan to help offset, maybe borrow less, that'll play into it too, but they wouldn't want to see you dipping into fund balance too much, too often, because it might point to a longer term problem. Because once you start using that, once you start using it and it's truly gone, if you don't have another revenue source to replace it, you're gonna run into problems.
Right. All right, thank you.
Then I briefly just want to touch base on the TIF. There's only $144,000 in fund balance at the end of the year, but there was significant amount of levy coming in. Now in 2023, you had $1.5 million as your levy or as your tax increment as a receivable and a deferred inflow now coming into 23. So then I will move then to page 11.
Just remember that piece of the TIF that comes in goes back out to pay for our developers agreement. We have not reached that total.
Yeah, which you'll see here and kind of how that worked in 22. If we look at the TIF column first here, you had $1.2 million of property taxes that came in. You had some audit fees, administrative fees, but then you paid out $1 million in principal on your debt service. Some of that was to the developer agreement, and some of it was for the actual long-term debt. And then there was $120,000 interest on that long-term debt. So you basically only increased your fund balance by $4,000 because you took your increment and started paying off the developer agreement along with the regular debt. Any other questions on the TIF? Otherwise, then I'll switch back to the general fund.
That will be, just noting now, because the TIF did not grow nearly as much as it did last year, that will be significantly less for this upcoming year.
But that's not an issue.
It's not an issue, it's just, it will take longer to pay back off what we owe the developer, right?
Right.
It'll be less income for that. It probably will delay closure of the TIF because it didn't grow as much as it had in previous years. Still will be well within the time frame of TIF closure.
You'll still close early.
Early, just not as, probably as early as we had predicted last
Delay
year.
it by at least a year.
Which is still earlier than the anticipated closing time.
Yes.
5 years, 6 years?
8.
No,
It was gonna be 8. We thought it would close,
31 would be its last year and 27 was what was predicted last year.
right.
Sorry, Amber, keep going.
Nope, that's okay. That's okay. That makes sense. So just want to touch base quickly on the general fund here. The general fund had just under $6 million of revenue come in 2022. The majority was taxes, which includes property taxes and room taxes. And then there was $840,000 of state shared revenue and various other grants. And those were pretty much your main revenue sources. There was $5.3 million roughly in total expenditures, with the majority in public safety and public works, which would be where you'd probably expect the majority of your expenditures to be. There were some other financing sources, which are transfers and sales of capital assets, and there were some of those insurance recoveries from the, I believe that was the lightning strike,
Hailstorm.
that came in to help cover some of that stuff. And so your fund balance in general fund grew by $385,000. Any questions on the general fund? Okay, if not, then we'll move to page 16. I just want to touch base briefly on the water utility.
What page?
The water utility had operating revenues of just about $1,053,000 and operating expenses of $746,000, so operating income of $306,000. $24,000, or basically there was debt payments or interest payments of $50,000, and then they had when they sold the truck, they got $16,000 in revenue in for that. Then there were some capital contributions here of $33,000 from residents that were hooking up. Then this $125,000 transfer that was back to the general fund as your payment in lieu of taxes, and so their net position grew by $190,000. Majority of their net position at the end of the year, this $4.5 million, is tied up in their capital assets. About $3.4 million of this $4.4 million is tied up in capital assets, from anything from the tower to the water main to the treatment plant. Any questions on the water utility at all?
Robbie is here too today. There are.
Okay. If not, then there's about two more things I just want to run past you guys, and so we're going to move to page 37. And because I want to show you the new lease amount that got recorded here. There are only too many pages. So with under GASB 87, that was that new accounting rule that went into effect for 2022. You had to look at lease agreements on both sides for revenue coming in when you lease property to others to use, and then the other side when you lease equipment from others to use. So this is when you guys are getting revenue from third parties for leasing of your office space. This is the Solaris agreement, if I remember correctly. And so the agreement is a long year or multi-year agreement. There's renewal clauses and different things so it goes all the way out to 2062. So over the next, 40 years, there's $160,000 in total receipts that come in. 131 of that is basically the principal portion of that receivable related to the use of the office space. And again, because it was new, I did want to point it out to you guys, just because it's obviously something very different than what's been recorded in most governmental financial statements. You're kind of comparable with other municipalities with the standard. A lot of them had receivables and not necessarily payables. But again, I did want to point that out to you guys. On the payable side, nothing ended up being recorded as there was the copier lease and the postage machine lease, but those were very minor dollar amounts, and so they were not needed to be recorded. But if something would change where you would enter into agreement to lease something more substantive, then we would work with the town to get that properly recorded in the future. Any questions on that?
Yes, the lease agreement with the Lifestar ambulance, where does that fit in?
I don't know, that's
It's
also,
not a significant amount.
it's $12 a year, so.
So
I don't-
that's why it doesn't, because
so
it's not a,
because it was only $12 a year, it wasn't significant, and it's significant enough to record.
I just was asking the question. And then the other reason was, this is why, because of this lease change, this is why the audit took a longer time this year?
It takes a lot of time to read through these agreements. we assisted the town with reviewing the actual wording of the agreements, because you have to go in, read all the clauses. So if the agreement is, it could take anywhere from a half hour per agreement to read and identify whether or not it's an agreement, whether it actually meets the rules, or it could take longer depending on how long the agreement is. We've seen some fairly lengthy agreements. And so that did take a little extra time, and then in terms of doing some of the calculations, there were some delays on our end, just getting it through with the team helping with the calculations.
Okay, thank you.
Then the last thing I want to discuss is going to be the findings for the year. So if you want to move to page 72, these findings are pretty much the same ones we've talked about in years past. The first two are segregation of duties. You have limited number of personnel to adequately segregate the phase of one transaction, because you never want one person controlling the entire transaction from start to finish. And while you guys have done a pretty decent job of implementing additional reviews, including the reviews by board members at oversight meetings and just even at this meeting, there's just limitations. And so you're not unlike many municipalities your size, we show segregation of duties findings. So that's the ones on the first two pages, and moving pretty much into page 74. Page 74 to 75, this one talks about the preparation of the annual financial report. Most municipalities in the state of Wisconsin and other parts of the country, they contract out the preparation of the financial statements to their auditors for cost-benefit purposes, because it could take, there's a lot of new financial, like this year with the leases, there was new footnotes that needed to be in, and there's just a lot of different things. And many municipalities believe that, there's a cost-benefit cutoff where it's just not efficient to have it prepared in-house, and so it gets prepared by your audit firms. Again, nothing unusual, nothing different from prior years, but again, just wanted to point it out to you. And then finding 22-004 has to do with adjustments to the town records. We did have to propose a few material audit adjustments, not including these lease ones, but just some adjustments, including recording some receivables and moving some items to that deferred inflows section that materially changed the amounts from maybe any preliminary reports you guys had received in January, just to get some of the items in the right spot based on the accounting rules. And with that, I'll open it up for any other questions.
Board members have any questions? I have some questions, Amber. Going back to the segregation of duties. We do have two people here at the home office, and we do have a person at our water utility that is a trained accountant. Melissa has some accounting background. Wendy's been with us for a long time. So with that segregation of duties, as you yourself have said, that's been coming up for a number of years in our management letter. Now with the transition of our town administrator leaving, the question would be, with the accountant in the water utility and the segregation of duty, can we have that checks and balances if we move some of those things between the two offices? Is that something that can be considered with the checks and balances between the three people that we have trained with some of the segregation of duties? Would that cover us in that?
Yeah, there's going to be certain limitations where your accounting software kind of plays into it too, because right now somebody can have rights to do everything.
Right.
And so that also plays into our consideration of your segregation of duties. But I would actually recommend that the town look at different things. So if Melissa prepares the bank rec or Wendy prepares the bank rec, for the general town, Robbie could review that and verify that, that all seems accurate. Or somebody could do that for Robbie's bank reconciliations, or the same for journal entries, and take a look at all the different various activities of the town, general disbursements, payroll. Maybe it's somebody reviews, basically, ultimately for segregation of duties, you don't really want somebody being able to handle the entire transaction from start to finish. So like with payroll, you don't want to have somebody be able to enter new employees, change wage rates, change hours for each payroll, actually then make the wire to the bank to pay the checks, you want to have some segregation of duties in between there. And if your accounting system doesn't allow for that, then that's where you build in additional reviews of having somebody spot check to make sure that no incorrect wage changes got made, or that nobody changed the time card totals without approval by somebody else in there, or that nobody's added an employee that doesn't belong or something like that, or that they didn't change the routing information for somebody's bank account without proper approval so that it went somewhere else. It's just having those extra layers of review in place when you can't segregate it, like especially in a system-wide thing. And you should be able to come up with some ideas between the three different people to be able to incorporate some additional reviews in between there.
And we must have some of that in place already, right? Thank you.
Yes, we
The oth-
don't with Workhorse though. I don't believe that Workhorse has an ability. Like if Wendy changed it in the system, it's not going to workflow to Melissa to do a correction. It's just changed in the system, and some of that's just the limitation with
Workhorse.
It's great software. Many municipalities our size use it, and smaller. It's just I don't think that's an option. When she mentions our system, the software
Right.
system, it doesn't workflow that way.
We're not the only one that gets the segregation of duties every year in their audit either, because we combine the clerk treasurer position, right, Amber? So,
Correct.
Right.
And I mean, we even have towns and municipalities where, if for some reason, like, a position is vacant for 6 months, they may have had good segregation of duties for half the year, but because there was something vacant, just, for medical reasons or any other reasons, that then sometimes then they end up with a segregation of duties finding just for 1 year because, things change like that. It's just, one of the things to always do is always just kind of be aware of, maybe something does change in the software. I do agree Workhorse does have those limitations where, it is what it is, but that's where, you build in the reviews and maybe, periodically run a report of X, Y, and Z, employee names or something, or, various things could be put into place there. But yeah, it's very common for municipalities your size and some even a little bit larger than you, to have segregation of duties finding.
and one last question I have then for you is we have one question that we had actually come up when we were talking earlier this week with our administrator, town attorney, and myself on our task list. We have a review and approval of the biweekly payroll and vouchers, and including the Rome water utility vouchers within our town financial policy in the general operations, B, cash management, and payroll, which your company originally was Shank and then became part of Clifton Larson. With that approval by the town administrator, do you see an issue with that eventually being transitioned over to the clerk treasurer office and that same process we originally discussed? That approval piece?
I guess I'd have to step back. I don't think so off the top of my head, but without remembering exactly who does what, I might need to
You can look at that piece with us maybe at
look
another
at
time.
it a little further.
Okay,
And we always review that as part of our audit every year.
right. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody in the audience or any department heads? Jamie, Nick, Wendy, Melissa, anybody?
I guess I can ask one question. Are you able to provide specific recommendations as far as solving some of these conflict or segregation of duty issues? Or is that something you just rely on us to work out ourselves? But are you familiar enough that you might have anything specific that you could recommend if asked?
It depends on how far in depth you want to go. As part of our audit, if we see something truly glaring, we usually put it in what's the management letter communication. Like at one point, I think a few years ago, before like obviously like the review of payroll by administrator, like what Lori was mentioning, that was a recommendation in our management letter a few years ago as a potential idea to do. If you're this year our focus in that management letter was more about just going back and circling back more on balance sheet reconciliations and making sure that, you know, AP ends up being the right balance or not, kind of thing. So usually when we do identify something, we have a verbal recommendation with Jamie or Melissa during the audit, and then if it rises to anything bigger, we'll put it in that management letter so that way others are aware of it as well. But if you'd be interested in more of something where, you know, you really want to take a deep dive into, you know, the billing practices or something, you know, COA does provide those services. It just might, and, you know, for an independence perspective, it would be a different team sometimes coming in to look at it, and would potentially cost, you know, more than maybe what you're looking for, but we could also talk about that at the same time. But otherwise, as we work through the audit every year when we're there in December and usually March, if we see something, we usually say, hey, we've seen this at another town. Have you considered doing this?
Okay, thank you.
So it might actually be a time, I don't know when the last time was, but it might be a good consideration to have a review of our current financial policy at some point.
Yeah, especially as you guys change, you know, as things shift, you know, every year, you know, there's always changes with, I guess especially, you know, as you, depending on how you're shifting things, because now even without the,
Well, we're gonna be going through an HR audit. We're gonna be going,
add
yeah,
more people or just have different
right,
system updates too can also make a difference.
right, and we're
So
doing some of that.
I would say you want to always review those policies, procedures at least every couple of years.
Right, which is what we're doing with our HR audit as well. So thank you very much for those recommendations. And thank you for the deep dive on the explanation of the audit. Anybody else?
Sounds good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You guys have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
Great, moving on. Where are we? I think I moved it though here, where we are. Okay, we'll move on.
I have a question.
Oh.
I'm gonna move that we accept the audit and place it on file.
Right, we have a motion by Supervisor Capel to accept the 2022 Annual Financial Report and Management Communication Letter from Amber, Senior Manager at Clifton Larson. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Supervisor Minter. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, discussion and possible action, review town board budget priorities and wage and benefit increases. All right, where do you wish to begin? I will make just a couple of quick announcements, though. As we've done in the past with the budget, Jamie usually presents these items, and moving forward, we're on a pretty tight time frame as we decided at our last board meeting. So if there's a number of things that she presents to us and we feel comfortable with them, I believe we could go ahead and approve those. If anything changes or it needs to come back or needs an update, we can do that and move forward. But like I said, we've got a number of things that we really need to get done and keep moving forward, but we'll see how it goes today. And let's keep that in mind, so.
Why don't we start with property tax levy worksheet for 2024? You guys have all seen this in the past, maybe with the exception of Bill. So I apologize, Bill, if I group you in through this piece, but this is our master chart of how much levy is in each budget. Not total budget for that department, but how much levy is in each department. I did share at the board meeting on Thursday our levy limit worksheet. We are able to do the levy limit worksheet right now. We can't do the mill rate yet because we have assessed value, but it might change slightly through open book and board of review. But we'll be able to get pretty close here in the next upcoming days on that. So with what we know from the levy limit worksheet, our allowable levy for next year is $3,779,699. That's an approximate increase of $149,000 to the levy. So you're gonna see that number on the bottom, the 3799 number. That's your allowable levy for next year.
You said it was 149, what was the exact?
149,723 is 4.89% net new construction. So as we talk about departments, we'll fill in that number, but in order for us to balance, and what we have approved at the evening of the budget hearing is the allowable levy, that's the 3.799 number. So from our prior conversations, appreciate all of the staff support. We do have presented for you tonight a 3%, a 4%, and a 5% option for a wage increase. On those three options, you're gonna notice the total employee costs. That's the cost of staff and health insurance, actual cost. We're gonna talk about health insurance in a second, but just as we go through the columns, that's the employee and actual cost for health insurance. Then the cost of the 3%, the 4%, or the 5%, that's just the wage increase. Cause health insurance, remember, we can only cover the up to 88% of the tier 1 provider. So that's a solid number. So those numbers are in here. The number that you see under the cost increase is just what that wage increase would be. And then you can see a 3% would be the 87,000 across the board. The 4% would be 105, the difference being $17,000. The 5% would be 125 for the 5%, and then the difference between a 3 and a 5 is the 37,000.
You're saying that we can only cover 88% based on what?
Through the state health plan,
Through the state health plan,
we can only cover up to 88% of the tier 1 provider.
if we're in the tier 1 provider.
Yes, you can only, so
Right.
why don't we transition to,
But if we did a different health plan, we could do something completely different.
potentially if you did a different health plan, you could do something different, yes. Then we would have to shop around to see if it would even be competitive. And then 2, everyone would have to change healthcare providers. I mean, we'd start afresh on January 1. And I also just wanna mention, several reasons of going to the state health plan was that we can cover retirees. We do
Right.
have sick leave conversion in our policy and in our union contract that we will provide a conversion of your sick leave time to cover health insurance benefit. We can't do that independently. If we stay on the state plan, we can insure retirees until either that sick leave benefit, or I believe in the union contract, I know Chief is in the back, it's 65 or 66.
But we could buy those employees out and get them in a health plan that would allow them to participate with the current providers that are more local than the ones that they would have available to them in that tier 1.
If that's something you would wanna do, you probably would have to do a post-employment health plan where you would be converting those funds and converting that sick time and putting it into a post-employment health plan. You wouldn't be able to just cut them a payment at the end. And it would also be taxable too, so.
No, buy them out now. Well, let's go through the numbers. Let's see what we've got and look at what this tier 1 actually means to the families. Okay.
So I didn't make separate copies for everyone. If you'd like a copy, I can even send you a link. There is the larger 2024 health plan description that's provided through the state, and that does offer all of the different options of health plans that you could select from. I always use the example, maybe you live in Madison and you commute because that's just what you prefer and you wanna have your medical care done in Madison. You could do that under this plan, you would just pick that healthcare provider. But again, the tier 1 provider, so going back to the 2024 benefits plan, the top row is the 2023 monthly single and family. I just provided that for comparison. So that's the current rate. And our tier 1 provider for this year was Greater Health Cooperative. I always say that, greater, group health cooperative out of Eau Claire.
This one here. This one.
She's questioning which one you're on.
This,
Yeah,
the
I'm looking at this
2024
one.
benefits summary.
Oh, this one, all right.
So it was the group health cooperative, Greater Wisconsin. You can see there that what the portion was, employee portion single, employee portion family, that was per month and then broken down per paycheck. Is everybody with me? Okay. In 2024, group health cooperative could not be competitive where they wanted to see a tier 1 provider. So it moved to the state maintenance plan, which is provided through Dean Health. This is how the state represents that for Adams County. You can see what they show as the tier 1, a tier 2, and then they have 3 tier 3 providers. But with being on the state plan, what they say is that as an employer, you can cover up to 88% of the tier 1 provider that they deem is the most competitive in that market, which is the state maintenance plan and Dean Healthcare. So they will cover up to $717.71 for the max for the employer for a single, and $1,700, yeah, that would be great. $1,761.48 for family. So what I did on this spreadsheet that I provided is I gave you what was tier 1 provider per month and then the group health cooperative. That has been the most commonly selected plan for us because it covers the Marshfield, Aspirus, system. So it's been our most commonly selected plan. You don't have to select that plan, but for our staff, it's been the most commonly selected. So then I gave you the per paycheck for state maintenance and the per paycheck for group health cooperative. So you can see next year it does go up. Health insurance is wonderful to have it, but so your employee portion for a single per paycheck from this year was $42.41, and your per paycheck, I'm just following my spreadsheet down, would go to $95.67. It's a difference of $53.27.
If you look at a family, if a family has children, they're going from 120 to 236.
They're going from the 104 to the 236 for the difference of the 132.90.
That's if they choose that plan.
You can choose any plan, we just can only cover the 88%. You could go to the tier 1 provider. I don't know that that would happen because Dean Health is more of a Gunderson service.
It's more of a okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And we do have a Gunderson facility in Adams County, which is why I believe it was tier 1, why they made it tier 1. But I would assume, I shouldn't assume, but if I had to guess, I would assume most people would stay with group health cooperative because it does cover more of the markets that we're in, being the Marshfield Aspirus network.
They'll be able to go to Aspirus and Marshfield Clinic with tier 1.
No, with the group, staying with group health cooperative.
But then tier 1, I think, I think the Gunderson, what used to be Mound View Hospital, I think is Gunderson. So
Yes.
it's not that far away.
No.
And they're expanding. I mean, I'm not saying it's apples to apples, but if a person
Right, so how are they going
were to choose, because they wanted to save a significant amount, that healthcare is available, but it is a half hour
to?
to the south
Right.
I don't know that we,
instead of to the
what's a lot of
north. I mean,
side
I'm pretty,
What's the question? What's?
No, I'm sorry, Jackie,
Oh.
go ahead. I was talking to Melissa.
because it seemed, having worked for the government before, you always had a cafeteria style of healthcare plans, and you could choose from the, the one where you got it all for the lease.
She showed you before.
Right, and that's what
We
we're
still
looking,
have
no,
it. You still
yeah,
have
I'm
that.
agreeing with you, and then you could also go down to the plan where you maybe didn't go to the first place you wanted to because you wanted to pay lesser in a premium. You thought you were really healthy or whatever you thought, and I'll save the money on the premium rather than a high premium and going to the premier doctor. So will it remain that people will have a choice between these two?
Oh, they have a choice
Yeah,
between
they have
any
a
of the
choice
providers.
now.
It's just that we would only be able to cover that 88%.
Right,
Now, this is, again, health insurance it's a lovely animal. We had a similar situation when WEA Trust decided that they were no longer going to be in the market. They were not gonna provide health care any longer. And then we knew we all had to transition. That's when Group Health Cooperative came aboard with the state. But when WEA Trust made that transition is when we put into place the wellness incentive. Because we knew it was going to be a hardship to make that transition, and we would help to make up the difference either in the HSA or taxable payment, depending on how the employee wanted to take those funds. So we still have that option. That number could be adjusted. Knowing these numbers, it certainly could be adjusted, but we've had this situation in the past. We have good years, we have not such good years. Last year was a good year. This year with the transition,
And it was no different when we were in private health.
No, it was no different when we were we had very good years, we had bad years.
Right.
There was years where we had,
It doesn't matter where you go, this is
Right.
this
But there
is the
was an-
reality of the situation.
but there were a number of years where we had a private independent agent with M3 where we had Security Health for many years. Or we switched to Aspirus for many years. We saw increases of 3 or 4%, then it jumped to 12, and one year it hit 18%. Then we got in the WEA Trust. Then all of a sudden they hit us with 24%. So then we jumped into this. But the thing is that it's an employee market right now. The concern is families. So families right now have doctors up in the rapids. Those are the things we need to think about. My concern is that if we lose employees that have families, and it's an employee market. So if we look at the health insurance, we also need to look at the wage piece. So as we talk about the health insurance, I also want to talk about wages too before we make a decision about the health insurance. Because believe me, people are recruiting our employees, all of them. So just please keep that in mind, because there's hiring bonuses like $10,000 out there floating around, and people are recruiting them right out of their cars while they're patrolling. So, and our regular employees in public works, so all over the place, at the county, next door neighbors, so just please keep that all in mind as we talk about health insurance. It's a critical piece, but so are wages. Yes, ma'am, or sir, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Oh my gosh, Supervisor Minter,
don't
it's
worry
just,
about it.
it's very serious.
Don't worry about it. Okay, so while all this discussion's been going on, when we come down to the bottom line of this, because we can only cover that 88% for what the state said, the net effect to our employees of that, if they go with the tier one provider, is $13 per month for an individual, or $156 a year. So that's something we have to keep in consideration. Well, you're shaking your head, I'm wrong. How am I wrong?
he's doing state maintenance.
He's
I
doing
know,
state maintenance.
Okay.
I'm gonna do
I'm
the other
sorry.
one in a minute. I'm
Okay,
doing the
yeah,
state
sorry.
maintenance. Okay, so, because that would be the minimum, that would be the minimum extra cost. 156 for an individual, 1344 for a family. If, however, most of our employees want to stay with the GHC plan, then we're looking at a difference of, let's see, was it 84, now it would be call it $100 a month, I'll round it off.
It's right-
$100 a month for a single, and
It's the-
$370 for a family, if I did the math right just quick.
It's right here on the spreadsheet, 106.54 and 265.80.
Oh, I missed it, thank you.
You're welcome.
So 106.54 per month, and what was that other one,
265.80.
265, oh, there it is, I see the 265.80 now, thank you. So 265.80. So, you know, if we are looking at, much like we did a year or two ago when we brought in the wellness plan and the HSA contributions, those are the numbers that we have to look at if our intent is to make our employees as whole as possible. So as we talk about
Yes.
wages or HSAs or other things, those are the numbers. Which plan, the employee gets to pick which plan. They can pick any one they want off that list. And we're not limiting them, you know, they have the whole list to pick from. We just have to figure out, it's like, well, okay, if all the employees really want this other plan, can we make them whole?
How do we make them
How do
whole
we
and
make them
where?
whole?
And it
Where
may
do we-
not, right, and it may
where do
not
we-
be the HSA, because we're already maxing out at the HSA, and the wellness thing, it's labor intensive, but the state already offers the wellness, so let them do it, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So, thank you for clearing it up.
I just wanna point out, right alongside, you're gonna see there's those two other charts. There's the 2023 health insurance town cost and the 2024 health insurance town cost.
Can you please point specifically where you're looking
On the
at?
benefit
Because we've got a
cost.
lot of charts here.
On the benefits one, we're still on the
Okay,
color
thank
sheet
you.
benefits one. So just for comparison, the town portion, covering that town portion, and we did this as a average 8 singles and 12 families. Just as an average, because it provides a comparison. So total health insurance costs, you can see there with the HSA and the wellness benefit, 404,000.
Okay,
In 23. In 24, again, just taking 8 singles, 12 families, your HSA payments and your wellness payments, it's gonna go to the 447, and so that's a town increase in cost of 43,108. Now, again, because this has been my slogan, we're in it to win it, to get to November 2nd. I just wanna point out, you can increase levy $150,000. If you did a wage increase, like if you took that number of your wage increase and you took, this is without any extra benefit, this is what insurance is, you're over your 150. So then that's where we have the conversation about what are we not doing if we're going to increase these other things more?
well, something's gotta give somewhere. Right?
Yep.
And we've got, okay. So with that in mind, the one question I do have for you is a question was posed by a supervisor about dental and vision, and you said those are already included in these plans, so that's already part of the state program, right? So that,
No, we contract with Delta Dental separately, but on the state agreement, so we get the best rate.
you got the best rates for those,
So
okay.
they do increase, you can see there I have the 2023 and the 2024. Dental increases for single and family, vision stays the same. There's additional breakdown for vision if you're a employee plus one and employee plus children, but it doesn't, it's the very small difference in numbers. But the town does cover at this point 100% of that premium. So the premiums that you see there are covered by the town 100%.
So you're looking at the chart where it says 2024 monthly dental and vision 100%. It's
Thir-
minimal.
Yeah, it's 3610.
Those plans are so
and 90 of pay.
inexpensive.
We offer subsequent dental that you can purchase too, but that's at 100% employee.
Yeah,
cost.
we had those two through okay. So now going down to the Town of Rome contributions, we're looking at HSA. We contribute that for a family and a single, but above that is a wellness incentive that we contribute another $12.50 and $32.50.
Correct.
So for a total, we contribute, add those two together?
So for a family, it's 8,500, and for a single, it's 3,875.
$38.75.
So a single could do all into their HSA if they chose to. A family, unless the individual is over age 55, has to take some of that as a payout because they would hit their max.
They'd hit the max
contribution.
donation for the year. And I'm sorry, Wendy, again, what was, I didn't write it fast
Which
enough.
one?
A family. What's the
Family
max for
It's
8,500
8,500.
this
There's,
year?
the max has gone up for 2024,
It
that
has.
is not the max. That's
Right.
what we currently are paying. I don't have the
Yeah, it went up
number
just a
off-
little, I think,
It is like-
87 something, I think, for,
Yeah, I
We could
I
look
have
it up
it
quick.
at my desk, I don't have it here.
that's okay. Somebody could Google it if they got their phone, Mr.
Here, I can
Supervisor
Google it.
Minter.
I can Google it.
I
No,
thought it
that's all right,
actually
no
went up.
biggie, but
thought
I
it
don't think
went up
we, I
fairly
don't know that we
high.
need
I
it,
think
but,
so.
all right.
Pages say
And then I did
24.
continue to update the chart, on
It is, but
I thought it was 8750, but, okay.
on benefits provided by our neighbors.
Oh, I
So
didn't bring
you
that
did-
chart,
You
sorry.
did previously get this last week Thursday, but we have added to it what their healthcare provider is. And not everyone has their everyone's working through the same conversation. So their 2023 premium, how they break it down, 85-15, 90-10, 95-5.
Did you give us a new one today, Jamie?
Oh, there
Okay,
is?
I'm
Oh.
looking.
it's on the
Sorry.
back of the,
Oh, it's on the back? Oh,
There we
okay,
go.
thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, are all other municipalities covering 100% of these things, or that's what you're showing us here, what they're doing?
But the thing we have to keep in mind too is that, like I said earlier, is that we are comparing apples to apples. You know, what is the complete compensation of wages with benefits so that we are, but Supervisor Cole, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
No,
did I
that,
interrupt?
no, it was my question, I'm just looking at the chart.
I don't have dental and vision broken down in there separately. I would say it is not common to cover 100%.
Right.
You're saying after the premium payment though, right? Because the premium payment's so minimal, but you're saying after you do that, like usually you have to pay like a deductible of
No,
like 50.
I'm saying most municipalities have some
copay.
copay.
There's a
Oh, yeah, a
copay.
copay.
Premium copay.
Premium.
Premium copay,
So
yes.
if it's $36, maybe an employee pays 5% of that or 10% of that. But
Beyond preventative, usually
on
you get,
preventative, it is uncommon to
premium.
cover 100%
Right.
of dental and vision
Premiums.
premiums.
The maximum contributions for 2024 for an individual under 25, or under 55 years of age, for single is $4,150. And for family is $8,300. And that goes up $1,000 each for over 55.
that's right, because they lowered it this year because of, that's right.
Well,
8,000, because it was higher last year.
no, it
Wasn't
went
it?
up
No,
this year.
it went up this
What, the numbers we have on our spreadsheet are what we contributed, but again, anybody under 55 could have to take part of that wellness as a payout in their paycheck versus getting it as an HSA.
Okay, so
their
4150
HSA.
for a single and 83 for a family. But you get an extra 1,000.
Over 55.
Over 55.
I'm gonna send the spreadsheet to you.
Where do you have it saved?
It's on my drive, so I'll email it to you. I got a couple minutes.
All right.
So understanding that was drinking from a fire hose, right? A lot of information, a lot of numbers, but we're in it to win it. Now comes the, like, what are we thinking as far as wage and benefit?
Well, let's go back to wages here. I'm gonna look at the,
Cause this,
you don't have, yeah, Adams County was at 4.9.
these numbers will affect almost all of the budgets, right?
Have you done, it's kind of a puzzle here, so if you're going to increase the wage, and then you've got the health insurance, and you have 149,000, one of these combinations is going to work.
Okay, so
So have you played with the
I have in
combinations?
front of me,
to
that's why
see
I'm here,
what's going
all the
to
diff-
work?
all different scenarios.
Okay,
We don't have a sheet with all those on it?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
there's
I
a
did
lot
not,
to
because
choose from.
I'm going to give you the opportunity, I can punch in your numbers and tell you what your savings would be or what your cost would be. And I have about 8 minutes, and I have to leave.
In it to win.
And it's when
It's not bingo night, Wendy.
No, I already had plans for this
All right.
evening that I have to be somewhere at 4:30.
All right,
Before I knew I was gonna be doing this. So, I have run, right now, what did we say, 47,000 over, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you take your wellness down, which I'm kinda hearing you saying maybe you would like to do,
Did we
you-
say that? Wellness down?
you don't wanna take it down?
So just consider all options. So
Okay,
what happens
so
if you do that?
If you take your wellness down, that brings, if you take it down to 625 and 1625, that brings your total, health insurance to 424, 553.28, which makes it $19,858.
You say those too fast.
I
I'm
know.
sorry, Wendy.
That's okay, I can get these numbers for you, I'm just trying to give you an
Okay, okay.
overall, this is where you would be at.
I would want them printed out. I'm
Yep.
visual. Okay.
So bringing that wellness amount that you would be giving down,
Okay,
you come, instead of the cost of, hold on,
47.
43?
of the 47,
47.
right, it's, you get to,
19.
yes, it's $19,000 different, let me see where I'm, so, the 2023 health insurance cost, that's the difference between the 23 and the 24, I'm sorry. That's your difference. Right now, your difference between those is,
Isn't that the 43,108?
I think so, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna do the math here real quick. Yeah, the 43,108.
And I don't know that that includes the increase in the dental
That doesn't include dental at all, this is strictly health
health
insurance.
insurance. So there would be some increase for dental if we
Yes.
continue to cover 100% of
Right.
dental.
So did you do any calculations if you reduce the percentage of coverage for dental and vision, say to 80%?
I have not, I can do that for you,
What if we would leave what if we would leave that figure alone and just go without the additional wellness for now?
so take
You
wellness
don't-
out altogether?
You don't reach your goal that way. You're gonna cut out wellness 100%? You won't reach your goal. You're $19,000 short of your goal right now by reducing it. If you cut out wellness totally, then does that
If I
get you
take
to your
wellness
goal?
and make it 0, and you don't offer wellness anymore, you're.
No, the additional, I'm not saying, okay, never mind.
No,
I'm
There
sorry.
is no additional,
What do you mean? My
I'm sorry,
original
never mind.
numbers, the original numbers that you have on your spreadsheet include full wellness and wellness.
Okay,
For what same as what you used last year.
okay.
So the difference between this year and 23 is $43,108, okay?
Okay.
yes.
If you were to reduce wellness to 625 and 1625, that's where your difference from the 23 to 24 is $19,858.80
Okay, so now
versus
we're
the
saying
43,000.
if we eliminate wellness, then where are you at?
If you eliminate
I'm not
wellness, you
suggesting
go,
we
you
do
go,
this, I'm just trying
you're
to
actually,
find-
you're actually less than 23.
Okay, so you could reach this goal by eliminating wellness. Now, I don't know enough about what that means to employees if that was eliminated.
Well, your wellness and your HSA are what make up the difference of what
No.
they have to pay in premiums.
Yeah.
No.
You're eliminating wellness and HSA?
No,
No,
I'm
no,
saying
no, no,
Just
no.
wellness,
No.
yeah, just
wellness and
wellness.
HSA together
Okay,
make up that difference in the premiums.
okay.
I'm not saying the
So the
HSA.
town is paying 100% with those two programs in.
Nope, it's making up the difference of what it costs the employee from previous year.
88%.
So they're
I know the
essentially,
88%
essentially, if you give them a raise, you're giving them a raise, they're not losing money.
Yeah, you're not giving them 5%
It's going into
to
their
put into
HSA,
the-
they're not getting
yeah.
it into their pocket, but they're not gonna take a pay cut, essentially, is what it comes down to.
Unless they change coverage plan selection.
No, that includes the tier 1,
Okay,
I mean, the GHC.
Okay.
That is if they were to take the health insurance
See-
that they want to take.
Because the cost of health insurance went up regardless, right? The amount
Right,
that we're,
right.
yes. So either way, it's the extra $43,000.
I'm looking at the fact that everything else in the world is going up too.
Right.
You know, you're giving them a raise, and then you give them HSA, and then you give them a wellness incentive, and that's great, but it's going in their HSA. And it can only be spent on medical expenses, and that's all what,
They can take the wellness, it's just then it's taxable.
Right.
But you could take it as a payout, you could. You have the option.
A lot of people do. Actually, some, most of them have to, because otherwise they'd be over their
Or
max
prefer to.
allowed.
It, you know,
Right, and then some of them prefer to.
and some prefer because then to take it as the HSA because they want to have that piece there for when they need it, maybe as a transition before Medicare.
and they
or-
just have to meet those initial 10 points that's required by E ETF.
No, for to receive our wellness benefit, you have to achieve 30 points in the year. You can achieve 10 of those points by doing the ETF
Okay,
wellness
but that's the
incentive.
extra manpower that I'm talking about. That's the extra manpower that you have to invest in it, that you do quarterly or whatever. That's the extra piece that you guys do in-house that doesn't necessarily, you've created that piece. So what I'm saying is that if you just do the 10 points through the health insurance program with the state health plan, and we just do away with that wellness piece and help the employees a different way. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do something different, because with the pay increases, they could do more with their money. There's everything else that's going up, utilities, gas, everything else. So if we're looking at a 5% increase, we haven't gotten to wages yet, you know, so, cause you're saying 3%, 4%, that's the other piece of this total compensation. So I'm just saying, if we're gonna do the wellness incentive, are we committed to the wellness incentive? Is that what we're talking about? I mean,
Well, and it doesn't,
are, who,
it certainly doesn't have to look like it looks like today, right? I
that's,
know you guys
that's
are
all
all
I'm saying.
receiving those emails. We do contest. We
And sometimes you do them and sometimes, and it's great. I love the program. I think it's awesome. But I mean, if you don't need to do that and we can just do it, let's find another way of compensating people and
Figure out your.
just do the 10 points.
yeah.
Okay,
But if there's another way to do it that it's not part of the,
And it could be that our wellness incentive is achieved if you achieve the Well Wisconsin. That could be what it is.
That's what I'm simply saying.
That's a board determination. It could be that.
okay.
It doesn't, we made that plan, right?
I know, and it was
So
great
it-
undertaking, and I appreciate, I wanted to join it this, you know, I even sent you the email. I thought it was a great plan. That's where I was going.
okay. Jamie has the spreadsheet. If you want numbers changed now, she can.
Great. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Wendy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You made it easy to follow, thank you.
You're welcome. I hope I helped.
So if that piece were eliminated, the wellness incentive, but yet you still wanna have these contests, whatever you want within the staff, occasional, incentives, contests to improve your health, where are you taking those funds out of? Say you achieved walk 100 miles in the month of, September, you put out a challenge, and if you can do it, you can get some sort of award from that. So if you kind of shift to do things like that, where would the funds to cover something like that come from?
So I believe Wendy said if you did zero out the wellness incentive, it would be less than your 43. Like you would,
Okay.
you would be equaling about where you are this year,
Yeah,
or a little bit less. We would take it from that extra that we
Okay.
had. I mean, we anticipated we were going to have to add something to health insurance.
so whatever it is, if it's $1,000 you have to work with, didn't do the math to get that exact number, you could then take that and kind of figure out these fun ways to, they're also kind of fun, challenging people and uniting employees too to do things,
Yeah, like every quarter.
but.
Well, it was just,
So what do you need from us today if that's the way we're going?
We need
I
to-
don't know if it is or isn't, but,
We need to have it would be great if we had a determination about where we wanted to be with wage increase. And then if we were going to leave the plan, the HSA and the wellness as it was and continue, or if we were going to make changes to those numbers. Those would be, because again, the percent increase, and if there's any changes to the health insurance plan, affect all the budgets.
Does anybody want to hear any comments or have any discussion on the health plans? Does anybody have any comments to make in the audience on the,
Yeah, I'd like to ask if,
Oh.
if you change the wellness program and you just go with the ETF or the, whatever you said before,
HSA.
that's amount still gonna, could I still put that in my HSA?
No, if you did not offer our wellness program and you did the one through ETF, obviously it's not the same dollar amounts. ETF's Wellness Well Wisconsin program is you have to achieve 3 items and you get a $150 gift card that's sent to you. That's, and in terms of then putting that into our wellness program, then we give you the 10 points achieving towards your 30 to earn your wellness benefit. But the ETF program itself is a $150 gift card. I will add, that $150 gift card is tracked and added to the employee's W-2 at the end of the year. It's a taxable benefit. It's not a huge deal, but I mention it.
Right.
So if you're doing away with the wellness program, then that contribution to the HSA goes away?
HSA or paid out, however the employee determines to take it.
That goes away?
It would, I don't know that, I think we're just asking that question or talking that through. I don't know that that was a recommendation.
no. Anybody else have a question? Anybody has any comments? Wants to add to the conversation? Oh, not
It's fine.
sure.
It'll just time out. I'll actually turn this off because you'll hear, thank you for using WebEx.
supervisors?
It doesn't seem we can do much until we move on to the wage portion
Yeah.
of it.
Sure.
And then I wonder, so we're having the personnel audit,
Yes.
that is probably not going to be impactful until 2024? Is that most likely? So we don't have to wait for that to come back
No.
to see if it's going to influence any of these numbers?
No, your
Okay.
HR audit is really looking at your HR handbook and making
Okay.
sure it's in compliance, or if you want to change things like your vacation policy, but it wouldn't
Okay.
change wage increase.
Well, it is looking
It
at
is
employee-
looking at wages too.
Yeah, and it is looking at employees' positions, and he's starting on the 19th.
But I
And
think
do have
we'll
to, yeah.
not consider that here.
No.
Most of those changes would be, if there are any, he might come back and say, oh, you're super fantastic, keep it the way it is. But if there are changes, it would be next year. Okay, so we can look at these wage increases as presented.
All right, so we're back to the sheet with wage increases, actual health, that one?
Yep, wage increase with actual health, and I think I shared some of these on Thursday, and we had a couple more that have come through, but just for comparison, understanding these aren't necessarily neighbors, but just what's been coming through, either through the clerk's listserv or through the administrator listserv. Lake Geneva's at 4%, City of Lancaster 4%, Grant County's at 4%. Village of Bayside is at a 2% on 1-1 and a 1.5 on 7-1. City of Hartford's at 3, Village of Jackson is at 3. The City of Elkhorn is at 2, the City of Oconomowoc is at 4, and the last we heard, County of Adams is at 4.9.
Yeah.
Do we know which of those cities are similar population to ours?
It's just a
Or-
group.
It's just random, okay, not random, but, okay, just numbers.
Those are numbers that they've already approved for their budget?
Yes,
And last year, what was ours?
4.
4. And the state's looking at, believe it or not, 4% back to July, 10%, and then another 4, which, boy, oh boy. That's on the governor's desk, but I don't know.
Okay.
Where do you see that one? Does she have that on there?
Well, I would say,
Difference is-
because
where
we
does she
know
have
the
that sheet
employee
with the
share of
different
the health
counts?
insurance cost is going up, I think we should either look at the 4 or the 5% wage increase as our more serious considerations.
She Is that sheet with all those different towns on it?
No, I just read those off. I didn't, it's not on your sheet. I just was,
Okay.
those were just from email correspondence.
I think it's most important that we look at our neighbors who are likely gonna take our employees. Nakusa, Adams, who have job openings right now, and the Wisconsin Rapids and Wood County. So those again, what do you have for,
I don't have all of those. I know that Adams was at the 4.9.
yeah,
Are we losing employees to Adams County?
We've lost our zoning administrator.
Greater to Wood
So
County.
Adams County
We lost her to Wood
Yeah.
for a promotion.
Yes.
and pay.
But I think a promotion and pay kind of go together.
Yep.
Can I add just one?
Yes.
Sure.
We talked about this at our directors meeting. I think you're right in saying that most people are going to want to keep their same insurance plan, which offers the exact same, it's just a different network, so it's the same benefits. If you wanna stick with the not great or whatever it is, Group health
Right.
cooperative.
You change
I
it to
know
the not great.
personally, I have a bunch of specialists that don't
Right.
exist outside of those networks, so
Sure.
my cost will be more than double next year. So anyone else who's staying, their cost will be more than double. So getting a raise that could offset that would be great, but that also doesn't count for anything else for inflation. So, just some things to keep in mind with retention of staff. I think some departments are probably more worried than others, but it could make a big difference, cause even if you're making the same amount of money the next year, you're losing money.
I think that's pretty much everybody right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you even got, and our biggest thing that we have right now is that we're in a rural area and even cities are still, you know, they've got it, it's easier for them, but, for us, it's still a worker's world right now. And you've gotta have, and the things they want isn't vacation pay, benefits, and
Flexible hours.
flexible hours. And so,
Cooperative didn't offer that last year, I think it would be different if they gave us the Cadillac and then took it away.
so, and even though COLA isn't going up that much to cover, you know, the medic, you know, for us, that's always something that we looked at, but, and we did have it on the agenda, I'm not sure, Jamie, why, but I think it was just a matter of time and conversation today, but we had on this agenda for today, utility expenses, gasoline, or fuel, you had it on there as fuel. What else do we have on there? Because those are all costs we anticipate going up next year for the town.
Supplies, just general supplies.
Supplies was the other one. So there are expenses that are gonna go up for each and every one of these departments. So that's why it was wages and health insurance benefits first. And departments were to say business as usual for everything else. So I'm in favor of 5%. Because doctors aren't getting any cheaper either. Less expensive would be the politically correct word. Less expenses, less expensive.
Well, then if I may, I'll make a motion. I move that the town approve a 5% wage increase effective January 1, 2024 for all town employees.
I will second that for further discussion.
I'd like to do it, but I don't think we can afford it.
I don't think we can afford it.
We'll do it.
Something's gotta,
It's gonna eat up every cent that we have, that's of our assessed value.
I get that it's gonna eat up every cent probably of our value.
Which means there's no flexibility in the rest of the budget.
There is fund balance.
There's fund balance,
That
and
we
we
can
have to
cut.
cut back on our
And we just spent the
expenses.
last half an hour saying how we value our employees, we want to make them as whole as possible. One piece of that is this wage increase, the other piece is whatever we decide to do on the health insurance. Otherwise, we just wasted the last half an hour of our time.
Then we have to be a lean, mean fighting machine and believe in the work they do for us. And it's time we do that.
So we understand what we're doing.
Absolutely. And then we look at the rest of what we're doing here. And we support them and we back them. But then we've got to work hard these next couple of weeks.
Then there'll probably be cuts in other departments these next couple of weeks.
Jamie, you said the levy increase due to new construction was 143?
That we consider then.
149,
149.
723.
Right. So that is just talking about wage increase. We're not, this doesn't need to be a combined motion to factor in the
My motion is only for wage
insurance. For
increases.
wage increase.
Then we get back to the other one.
Yep. And we can always come back and discuss it again. We've got other positions that aren't filled right now. We're looking at a hybrid for zoning. And quite honestly, when we look at the transition plan, you know, and what we might do for the town administrator position, there may be a reconsideration there. We haven't discussed that yet. That's look at the sheet here. That's $145,000 there,
That does incorporate family insurance, so.
which is true. Which is true. And we'll look at other expenses.
I don't have a problem with appreciating employees and giving them the higher raise, but I do wonder how people in the community, if they do compare to what's happening in all neighboring municipalities and they're not that high and we're going higher, how they're gonna react to that.
Well, then do we have to look at the other benefits we're giving? So do we look at like dental and vision? Do we look at those types of things? But then are we comparing again apples to apples?
Madam Chair, I think in order to make a good decision, we need all those numbers on a sheet so that we can see what the total package is for the employees.
Well, maybe,
Can't do it piecemeal.
well, how do we do, how about we do this? We can't move forward with any of our other work and get done by November 2nd unless they have a placeholder in the budget. So how about we give them at least a number to work with? Like I said, we can always bring this back.
I
Does
agree with
seem-
that.
Is that seem reasonable?
Yes.
Yes.
Does that seem reasonable that we allow them to move forward with a number so they can at least get some work done?
Sure.
We can
Yes.
always, it's easier to carve things away than not have anything at all to work with. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels.
So based on that statement then,
Leave the 5% in.
but I will amend my motion to say that the 5% is in the current budget discussion as a placeholder to allow us to see the entire picture as the budget
There you
develops.
go.
All right, does that seem?
You need to second it.
Oh, I will amend my second as that it's a current placeholder with the understanding that as we move forward, yes.
Okay.
Okay, does that seem agreeable? All right, any more discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, we need insurance. So, are you gonna be getting more insurance information, or is this pretty well? May I ask a question, though? Any more comments from staff regarding insurance that we need to understand before we make this decision? Do you feel we understand it correctly? Chief, do you have a comment? Any other staff? I saw you shaking your head, so I wanna make sure we understand what we're doing here with this insurance, cause it doesn't get any easier.
For my staff, it's gonna come back to what Bill said, it's gonna be a total compensation package. I've shared it with certain people, state troopers have pulled up next to these officers here.
I know, I
They're
had to
offered a $1,200 incentive if they can get somebody to jump ship and go to the state patrol. The state patrol's paying $42 an hour for an officer with 3 years of experience on a lateral transfer is what my officers report to me. There's 5 openings or 4 I've heard in Wisconsin Rapids that pay more than us, but their benefits are a little less than us, so may even out. Nakusa's benefits for insurance as it stands
Better,
today,
I've got it here.
they don't pay a deductible and their wage is neck and neck with us. That's usually who we
Yes.
compete with. But we just did a recruitment trying to create an eligibility list and we got 0 applicants. So if these folks leave, the department size is going down because there's no one there. It's a very, very tight market. The state patrol isn't out offering $1,200 bonuses to troopers to steal my guys from me for no reason. They can't get cops either there, so.
A $10,000 signing bonus was the last one I heard. when I
And
checked.
that's common all over these places. Lateral transfers weren't heard of in police work 6 years ago. You started at the bottom and worked your way up. Now, if you go to the Wiley Net where our jobs are posted, every single one says lateral transfer. You can start at top pay. We'll bring your sick time over from your current employer. So, you know, if people quit from over there, I'm not gonna be able to fill them. I mean, we've already, 5 years ago, it was unheard of to have a 19-year-old police officer over there. They weren't hired, but those are the only folks available to hire right now, so.
And public works employees are the next ones that are,
But what I can say is, right around here, the Nakusa and stuff, they're not paying a $2,000 deductible for
no,
health
God.
insurance. He just had his city council meeting and is looking to hire another full-time officer. One of my full-time officers lives right in the city limits there, so if the benefits go down, likely that person's gonna jump ship and, you know, do police work right outside of their front door versus commuting here, so.
For comparison though, we cover more than their deductible, right? This next year, it'll be 1,600 for a single or 32 for a family, and we're giving them the 26 or the 52. So we are, through the HSA, we're also covering the deductible.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying, you need the total
The app,
benefit
yes.
package, cause I've been told by Nakusa that their deduction for a family plan is 101 or something like that per check. It's, so if ours goes to 200, that would be, or 238, that would be double what theirs is. So you need a full compensation package to make any kind of legitimate decision, cause if you say, fine, you have a zero deductible, but your wage is $2 an hour lower than what Nakusa is, and they have a zero deductible, it's a no-brainer. You slide up there and fill a position, and that's just my world. I don't know how it is in the highway department or other worlds, but we lost several other department employees this year too, I'm assuming for the same reason, that they went to better benefits and higher pay wherever they decided to go.
And I actually have the city of Nakusa's from their insurance agent, but they've been with Security Health now for a very, very long time through their independent agent. So apples to apples again, as Supervisor Capel said, but, overall, 1,500 for an individual, 3,000 for a family. Out of pocket, 3,000 individual, 6,000 for a family. So if we have, you know, apples to apples, that would be very helpful, so.
Well, next year, our deductible again for single and family is 1,632, and your max out of pocket would be the 25 and the 5.
Okay, and then.
And then they give 2 and 4 for their single and family HSA. So I
2
don't
and
just,
4, okay.
2,000 and 4,000.
Okay, 2 and 4, that I didn't have, which is good, okay, so we know that.
Do you know how much they're paying per check?
Yeah, I don't know if their premium is on there.
No,
That's
I
the
needed to get that yet, so.
I know their premium is split 90-10, but we didn't get their numbers on per paycheck amount.
Yeah, so that's why that would be a good one to have, but,
Again, I did provide you, not everyone has 2024 done, right? So I did provide you Portage and Wood, and I gave you those handouts. And we did have
which is good.
the
thank you.
city of Stevens Point also on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, but their wages and that up that way and their cost of living is different, you know. But that's a good start, thank you, Jamie.
So I don't know, maybe this is just maybe it's just pushing it down the line, sort of like we just did with wages where we put it in as a placeholder. But I'm wondering if we almost need to put in place as a placeholder our current level of payments on the dental and the vision plan and on our HSA and wellness contributions, just to see, as these other numbers come in, what does it mean 2 weeks from now?
Don't we already know that it's,
Well, what I would do is the 5% in
Over.
all of the budgets, and actually what I would try really hard is to give you this sheet on Thursday with 5%, HSA the same, wellness the same. Department heads have already been entering in their other items. and you would see how far you're off. That's what I would, I mean, then you would know where you would need to start, if you needed to start any place. Or if you wanted to use fund balance, which I'm not advocating for, you could know how much you'd have to use.
Right.
Let me just ask, if you had, let me just ask the people that are here. If you had a 5% increase in your wages this year, and you know you were gonna have this insurance, I mean, how bad would it be to have them pay for some of your dental and your vision? I mean,
Well, I did the math, Lori, on this,
Yeah.
and if you give the average cop, say the average police officer is making 55,000, and you only can pay 88% of the tier one, none of my police officers are gonna go to Gunderson. I mean, the ones that are on the family plan have infant children, and they're in the same boat as everybody else. They've established their network up there, they have their family care doctor, furthermore, they all live up that way, so they
So they're
commute
gonna
all the way down to.
take the other plan. Got it,
But when
thank
I
you.
stay
When
on
I
the
figured it out,
stay.
Lori, it came to a negative number, that increase of $120 per paycheck. If you take that through the whole year, you end up taking less money home next year than you did this year with the 5% raise. It eats it all up and then some, and obviously, as other folks have said here, there's inflation.
Yep,
So the town employee has less buying power. And
yes,
I get you're up against a rock and a hard place with a 140,000 increase, but something's gotta budge somewhere. I mean,
Yep.
either you gotta have less cops than on the street to pay the ones that you can afford to have, or
They have to
or
downsize.
something, but you can't ask the people to take substandard
yep.
wages.
I just
That's
wanted
not
people
in
to
the
hear
market.
that in our discussion, and the thing is, we just added an officer, so we'd have CSO with code enforcement and everything else, boating safety, so thank you for adding that to our conversation. So
And-
everybody got it?
And in terms of the grand overall scheme of things, when we're talking, I see no reason to change the 100% payment on the dental and vision insurance, because we're talking
It's a minuscule amount.
$2 a month,
Exactly,
$24 per employee per year.
yep,
And we have, what, maybe 15 people that take that plan?
22, 20,
20.
20,
15
people.
times 20 is $300. We're talking $300 on a multiple $1 million budget.
exactly,
I say we don't touch the dental and the vision.
there you go.
I just think going forward, if we just consider the 5% wage increase, which basically is gonna cost us 125.2,
Yep,
and if you keep the health insurance the same, which is 43.1, that adds up to 168.3, and so if it's covered entirely by the increase in the levy limit, which is 149, that puts us about 19.3 in the hole, if everything else in the budget stays the same,
Which you won't, which you can't.
which can't.
Well, it
But I mean,
can't, but-
that's kind of our starting point right now, as I see it.
yep, which just means there has to be some cut somewhere, which,
Yes.
you know, hasn't been unheard of, because other people have said, all right, you go back to your budgets this year and you cut 1%, you cut 2%, so, but I think we're at a good starting place. So does somebody wanna entertain a motion that we put that in as a placeholder for health insurance?
I move that as a placeholder going forward, as we compute the rest of the budget, that we retain the HSA and wellness incentive contributions as they were in 2023, projected for 2024, and continue to assume 100% town payment on the dental and vision.
And health insurance too? Did you say that, Supervisor Minter?
Maintain as it was in 2020.
Oh, all right, I didn't hear that portion, I'm
Should be
sorry.
covering 88% of the
Covering
tier one
88% of the tier one.
Yeah, and then let's see what kind of cuts we can generate in the
Yep.
budget elsewhere.
All right,
Is that a second?
I'll second it.
there you go, force it out of them, Supervisor. We have a motion by Supervisor Minter and a second by Supervisor Bauerheit to maintain health insurance and dental and vision, and what was the last one?
HSA and wellness.
HSA and wellness. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, great discussion. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item number 9, discussion and possible action, specific 2024 budgets being reviewed. IT, cemetery, EMS, Rome Town Center, buildings and grounds, and community donations.
Now we're moving on to these sheets. These should look familiar from your budget books in previous years. They're in the order that the chairwoman read them off the agenda. The first one is IT. IT is a flat budget from last year. So it's been holding flat for the last couple of years. You can see this would be $50,140 of levy. And then in the expenditures, I won't read through them in detail, but you can see how they break out. Did make a minor adjustment. It doesn't change the overall number, but Chief let me know we need to have a software upgrade on some of our security items, so you're gonna see that reflected in equipment repair. But we haven't been trending as high as we had budgeted previously for Solaris work, so that number came down a little bit, still over $7,000, and the equipment drives went up a little bit for that software improvement. There's no staff items in the IT budget, so.
Not necessarily a budget related question, but it's a Solaris question. Have they tried to convince you yet to go to 3CX?
No.
You should look at it.
Okay, educate us all.
So 3CX is an app that Solaris has now for all our VoIP phones, because we have VoIP
For
here,
your
right?
what phones?
Voice over internet.
Oh.
You don't have,
You don't
you
use
use
a
voice over
phone.
internet, right? You don't use hardwired.
No.
You have
What is he
hardwired.
talking about?
We don't have voice.
Somebody educate us.
I can help you.
Okay.
Can you
So
help us?
you no longer have a traditional desk phone on your
Right.
desk. Those are kind of actually,
I have my old princess phone from a childhood.
that's probably collectible. But a lot of companies, you no longer have this desk phone.
Mm-hmm.
Your entire phone operates through your laptop.
Oh,
Yeah, my office phone, my
Oh.
office phone is on my personal cell phone right now as an app.
So
Oh,
those
wow.
And
little
we went
anchors
to
that are
look
on
at
your
it with
desk
Solaris, because
are gone
they
in the
did
garbage.
reduce our monthly phone cost when we went to the new system. So,
Does Adams County have that, Jamie?
What did they call that?
it's, well, the app is called 3CX, but it's a VoIP phone, voice over internet
3CX.
phone.
Chief, are you?
See, so you're admitting you're learning too, Bob?
I never heard of that.
Alrighty then.
They
Yeah,
are.
is it hardwired into a phone line or into the network line?
To the
Okay, then it's a
network.
VoIP phone.
It's a VoIP
If
phone.
it's in the network line,
called
it's a
a VoIP
VoIP
phone?
phone.
VoIP,
And we can go
VoIP.
VoIP, voice over
I've
internet
seen
phone.
Over internet phone. So you can be on your laptop doing something and it'll pop up and you answer it just right on your
Oh, I got
laptop.
something to read when I can't sleep
You don't
tonight.
have that. There's gonna be a big trash heap full of those phones
Okay.
eventually.
Well, we
'cause
missed
I
that
think most
opportunity at
corporations
Emmanuel.
have gone to VoIP.
That was a picture.
Yeah, just a suggestion for something to look at.
Mr.
maybe
Betts
for,
was
you know,
overwhelmed.
it's not really gonna probably, you're never gonna get it done in time for it to change any numbers in here for next year. But it's something to look at. I would strongly urge the town to talk to Solaris about upgrading their phone system. Because I believe, I have 104 phone lines at school. So,
What did that cost?
$6,000 a month.
Not this year. Okay, moving
Yeah, but
on.
I have 104 phone lines. You don't have 104 phone lines here.
You pass a
So
basket.
everybody there operates their phone now over their own personal phone?
Or on their
And your
desktop. Well, we
laptop,
still have the
desktop.
phones because we bought them all, so we own all the phones too.
Oh,
We have the
okay.
phone on the wall,
Moving
plugged
on.
into the internet, but then you can get it
Right.
on your.
Back
like,
to order.
I can literally send a text from my office phone, and it'll appear, if I texted Jamie right now, it would appear as if it was coming from Assumption, even though I'm using.
Next year, chief. Learn,
I can call Wendy and see if there'd be a reduction in price. It won't take her that long, but we already have voice over internet phones.
Yeah, if you already have the VoIP phones, I think it will save us money. Call Wendy, I advise it. She's a great person.
awesome.
That Wendy's a great person too, but this is a Solaris
I
one.
don't know that'll fit and lose 1%. Okay, moving on.
Feeling good about IT?
I think
I
so.
want to accept these individually as
Yes,
we
I
go.
think so. Yes, I think
So I'll
that's a
make a
great
motion, we
idea.
accept
I
the
guess
IT
I'd have
budget
to ask,
as
since
presented.
Chief is here, there's no place on here that you think there could be potential for any cuts. Cause as you can tell, we're trying to keep the
Yeah,
pay
that's
up,
true.
the wages up. So we're gonna have to look at each department and see if there is potential anywhere for any type of cut.
That one's pretty clear cut, that's why it's a zero increase.
Yeah.
We basically carried that server money, cause the server hasn't been replaced yet, we're waiting, for something to happen to it, if we have backup of of that server, so if we would have a hardware failure on it, we would purchase a new one. That's why we haven't purchased it this year, and why we just carried the money forward, so if you wanted to use undesignated funds, if you had a server blow up and take the money out of the budget and hope that it doesn't happen in '24.
So is the,
That's
We
16.
just listed in there as a placeholder and haven't spent it for the last 3 years it's been in there, because the price spiked on the servers so much, we hoped that it would come back down when the supply chain. And so we've been leaving the server run that's currently in there, but it's about 7 years old, and
oh,
that's the
It's an
last
end,
5
yeah.
years generally, so,
I would-
you know.
so is the,
Buy one at any time.
is the server and the backup all here in the building, or where else are you backed up off-site?
Police department.
The two buildings backed up between each other, our stuff
It's
backed
still
up.
just right here on this property.
But it's secure. It is, but is there, are you thinking it should be more high level now?
Should be further away.
Well, ours is in a cement vault over there, where the
Well, it's another topic. I think if you had someone really evaluate all that, they
In a separate building, though.
should be in the cloud, or it should be,
We priced the cloud, it was,
yeah,
It
maybe
was
it's
too
just
much.
not affordable.
It's all on site, cause it's not affordable for us.
Should be
That's why-
further away, cause if a, fire, a tornado came, whoop, we're gone. It's gone.
We could put it on a list of things to do maybe in the future. That's
It's
a
just
good.
a discussion topic, but we can get back to the numbers. You're not gonna fix that today, but it's kind
We
of
could
a,
take 16,500 out of the budget if we wanted to.
a
With
security.
the understanding that if the server crashes next year, we're
It'll
gonna
come
have
out
to
of general
cover it.
funds or something, yeah.
But if the server
And-
doesn't crash next year, then we don't have to take $16,000 from someplace else.
We did have a year though, didn't we, Jason, where something happened and then we ended up going with that divided? Didn't we have a year when we had that company in Wisconsin Rapids and then we had to get new servers and then we divided it with very secure? That was quite a while ago though.
It's all segregated, and, you know, Solaris has a data vault, but like Jamie said, we looked into storing that stuff
Sure.
there, and the cost was very prohibitive for how much data we have. And, you know, when they looked at our vault that we have at the police department, it's a poured brick with a cement top on it, and
It's
got
secure.
Depression in it, so a
Oh,
tornado's not gonna
yeah.
take that.
So you're doing the best you can with the funds that are available, so,
Correct.
sounds like, okay.
And that was taken into consideration when that building was built.
Correct, it was built, it is, the server room is in part of the tornado shelter in that building, which is a cement
Okay.
structure with a cement top on it and a cement floor.
I do have a question too about the, Solaris labor. 14,000, oh, I see, it dropped down quite a bit to half, okay. What kind of labor, is that for like the sound in here and the sound in the main room, or?
It's all engineers for like your email, exchange server and all that kind of technical stuff, updating your exchange server, your domain controllers, the virtual networks that are on the servers, we pay them hourly for.
So that's one we should leave alone, okay. And the town, web design, that's that white glove service you refer to, what, right, Jamie?
that's for the hosting of our website and providing updates to our
And
website.
that looks like that's gonna increase in the next year?
That is, yes, they did
Okay.
go up. When we went to the new website, they told us that would go up.
And what is the Rushworks streaming support?
That's what we use to film and
Okay,
back our meetings.
and then the equipment repairs for channel 300, is that,
We have that in there because that computer is aging too, and if it needs to get replaced, because it's on a separate, that's a separate system in the back room,
so that might need to be replaced soon-ish?
yeah.
Hate that word.
It's working,
Soon-ish, that means
Working
like,
today.
it's
like
working well.
probably tomorrow, kind of thing, okay.
When were the access points last replaced?
That's a cheap question.
They're over 5 years old, you know, the Solaris wanted us to replace them, but again, costs, we decided that we have enough redundancy that we would let them burn out and then call them to replace them at that time, because if one goes out, they're close enough that the other one would continue to provide our wireless, but Solaris has already recommended replacement of those, and for financial reasons, we've pushed it off just like the server.
and they have been working.
I mean, basically, if they burn out, you call Solaris and they have them in stock. They're here 20 minutes later putting the new one in, so it's not like you'd have downtime.
So they have them handy, it's not like all of a sudden they'd have to wait for a part, okay.
Correct, but Wendy was trying to do her job and sell us stuff, and we declined.
And what's the server for municipal for 16.5? It looks like we carried it over 2 years now.
That's what we were
That's
talking
what we were
about.
talking
That's
the
the one.
replacement.
Oh, okay.
16.
Oh,
What about if we, I know that we already have a motion to accept it as presented, but what about if we took it down, what about if we take capital down by $10,000? Knowing that if something happens, we're gonna have to find the money 9 months from now, if that server breaks next September.
I think we should just take out the full amount for the server.
Take out the 16, leave the 2,000 for the access points in there.
are you comfortable with that, Chief, knowing the IT and what you just all explained? Okay.
As long as we can buy them a server when it breaks.
I mean, at some point, you're gonna have to put the money back if you don't do it from undesignated funds when the price like I said, we didn't buy the server because we couldn't even buy one right now for 16.5 because the
Okay.
supply chain on hard drives, the price has gone up on them astronomically.
All right, did,
Otherwise, we would
I didn't make this-
I'll amend my motion to remove the 16.5 from the budget.
I don't know who those second was on that.
There was no.
there was no
There hadn't
second.
been a second.
I'll second his amended motion.
Well, you might as well just make a new first then. We don't even have to do that, because we did, right? We didn't,
All right, I'll make a motion that we accept the budget for IT with the removal of the 16.5 for the server.
I'll second.
okay. So we have a motion by Supervisor Capel for accepting the IT department budget with the removal of 16,500 for the server for municipal. Second by Supervisor Minter. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So you'll bring that back to us with a better sheet, or we don't need to, you'll do that in the book, or?
Well, you'll see it on here,
Okay, oh, yes, okay, we'll see that adjustment on the sheet next week then, okay.
hopefully next week.
If we don't have to
Cemetery.
buy a new server. Everybody pray. All right. Cemetery.
Cemetery. There is no levy in cemetery. Cemetery is taken care of out of the perpetual care fee and the fees that we receive for the sale of lots. So you're gonna see your prior year revenue of that 22,400. It might fluctuate a little bit if we would have a big influx of lot sales before the end of the year, but again, there's no levy in cemetery. And then you can see next year we were budgeting to sell about 4,500 in lot sales. And I do have on here, what you won't see going forward, you'll see I have the 5%, 9/14/23. That means I took into account a 5% wage increase wherever there was labor cost. But now that that's gonna be the norm, you won't see that on every individual budget.
Okay.
Then expenses, the labor cost there is really for the mowing and the maintenance of the cemetery. And then the breakdown of operations and utilities, we do have electric, we have some lighting. Because all of our budget's balanced, whatever is remaining after we would have any capital outlay is gonna go back into that perpetual care because cemetery stays with cemetery. We are proposing that 82.5 next year for outlays. That would be for seal coating the roads. They were crack filled this year at Spring Branch. We'd seal coat next year. We've been talking about that barrier, that berm barrier that would be added to Spring Branch, and then the flagpole replacement at Spring Branch.
The natural barrier along the property line is to prohibit that one person from coming through there with his ATV, is that right?
Well, there's a camper on that one side, and then in the two corners, there's an opening and there's a fence there. And so that doesn't take care of that side.
Have we talked to him about prohibiting that use?
They have
Numerous times,
numerous times,
He keeps doing it,
yes.
yes.
apparently? I don't know, I'd be in favor of taking that $2,500 out of the budget.
I'm not, Bob. I'm not. The man is, no. I've got pictures of it. And then the two corners in the other area, they keep coming through the corners. I don't know why, but they do. There's homes behind there, the fence is old and rotted.
Has he
and
ever been ticketed for trespassing? Do we have to catch him in the act, or what?
Chief, do you know, is
Got
he
it.
ever-
We had 11,000,
Acted once on that matter, and so I,
there was a,
if that's still going on, he's still driving it over there, I thought it had stopped.
Well, if it's stopped, then I'd be in favor of taking it out.
a natural barrier? Why is that an issue to respect a cemetery? People pay a perpetual fee to have that cemetery taken care of. It looks terrible.
All I'm saying is if he's no longer doing it, then it's not an issue.
You can see the tire tracks. You can see him going through there. It's fresh enough that he's doing it.
Chief, could you just make a note to have a conversation with that neighbor again?
Or maybe we could go out, I'll go out and see if the tire tracks are still there. I don't wanna,
Bill just said it's
We'll put
fresh.
a trail cam there, and if we catch him driving into the cemetery, we'll go over and issue him a citation.
That would be a
I
good
thought
idea.
that
that's a great idea, but I don't wanna take that money out of there yet, because originally there was supposed to be a fence. You know,
All I'm
around
saying is you're
those-
gonna have to take money out of the budget here
But it
as we
won't-
go.
It stays
You
in
don't take it
cemetery.
out of this cemetery, though. This
Yeah,
this
it'll
stays
stay in
in here. This is
This'll pay
perpetual
for
care.
itself.
Okay, all
If-
right,
This is
I'm sorry.
self-supporting.
Yeah, if you don't spend the 2,000, it will just stay there, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can't use it for
And it's
anything
not
else.
levy money.
It's
It's
not,
cemetery.
That's
no
right.
levy.
Can't use
So
it for
there's no
anything else.
savings on our levy if we,
No.
None,
That's
forgot
right.
that. That's good, okay.
I'm just passionate about the cemetery. People die to get in there and people want it taken care of. Because I did, Bob, have a woman call me about the way we're taking care of our cemeteries. In the New Rome Cemetery, the grass wasn't cut for many, many weeks. And she came to visit her family's plots, put flowers, and she was very, very upset. So it's just, it's a passion of mine and
That's not anything to do with the barrier.
I drive
That's-
by that
but
New
it's
Rome
respect.
cemetery twice a day, and I wonder why that fence isn't entirely removed.
a car hit it. And
No, but just take
We've
it
talked
down.
about just having
Why
it
do we need a fence?
keeping
Just
the-
take
Right.
it down. Nobody's trying to get out of there, that's for sure.
or in, unless
So-
they die. This,
Okay, moving on.
no, but wait a minute though. That fence has been missing since June of 2018, I
Well,
think.
the
But-
fence is rather bad,
Yeah.
and traveling around the state, some cemeteries do have fences. I think it's, maybe they've experienced vandalism or
Yes,
something.
so-
But I don't know that we have experienced vandalism.
I move
So-
we accept the cemetery
Take the
budget for
fence down.
2024 in revenue and expenses as presented.
And I will second it, and again, it's a passion, this money stays in this account because it is, a special kind of account specifically because of the money that goes in, and it stays there, it's perpetual care.
I'll second.
All the, no,
you did.
I'm the second.
Okay, all right.
There's a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Chairwoman Jumati. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. EMS,
The EMS budget per our agreement, next year is our last year of our 3-year agreement with Lifestar, it takes a 3% increase, and so it goes to, our portion goes to 207,464. I did attach next to the budget that piece from the agreement that reflects that increase. And then Attorney Flanagan, redid our numbers based on our equalized value, our amount of calls, and our population. This was presented at the last EMS meeting and agreed to by all 3 of the municipalities. So this budget is 207,464.
Okay, we're not gonna change that.
it's 207,464.
Yep.
That one's easy. I move we accept the EMS budget
Take the easy one.
of 207,464 and 40 cents.
Oh, and 40 cents.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Capel and a second,
The other way
Cole.
around.
oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Cole.
Both cases. close.
Second by Supervisor Capel to accept the EMS district budget for $207,464.40. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on.
Next is Rome Town Center. Rome Town Center, you're gonna see, does have a slight increase. Revenues there are really just your levy. We do get a little bit from rental. we don't budget a number for property sales. If we did sell property there, it goes into this budget, but we usually keep that zero, cause it's hard to know exactly what you would sell and what it would sell for. Then as far as expenses, there's a 5% increase there in labor. That's mowing the lawn, checking the sprinklers, upkeep of the Rome Town Center. The item that doesn't include it gets budgeted in building and grounds is like when Fran goes over there and cleans. Your operations is gonna go up, actually it's about level. We did put in here, it's about level because this year we had two big projects. We had the painting of the gazebo and the bathroom building and the wrapping of those poles. But next year we have in there for some big projects, moving to LED lighting for the street lights, painting of those light poles, and
Oh my
doing a backflow preventer that needs to get replumbed into the splash pad.
What is a backflow preventer?
Stops the water from going back into the pipe,
Yes.
and it's used for swimming, for swimming pools. If you have your own swimming pool at home, you have to install one.
Oh,
Stop
I
the
know what you're
water
talking.
from going back into
Gotcha.
the spigot
Yes. Okay.
And contaminating the water.
All right.
They're
gotcha.
there, but they're installed incorrectly, actually.
So the utilities, you're gonna see an increase there because we would have the band shell online. We are already paying for the electric there, but we expect an increase with having concerts out there. And your principal and interest is already set and determined. That's the loan that was used to create the Rome Town Center.
I just want to look this up. No, can we just, I have a couple of questions here, please. Just a moment. Let's see here. Startup sprinkler. There was a question, and I still have a question regarding this. There was a question about the sprinkler system getting damaged. I don't know what meeting it was at. And it was said that it was budgeted back to the Rome Town Center. But it was damaged because of something that was built at the park, because
Yes.
of the band show.
I
My
think we
question is,
repaired that out of hand, and Brad took care of that himself. There was never another
a
expense
fee
that we.
involved or a
I
fee
think
or
just some
expense?
purchase of some supplies to get it fixed.
So it wasn't a large expense that it should be charged back to the band shell project? It wasn't a large expense?
No, and if there are some sprinkler heads that are moved or reset on angle, now that the band shell's built, that would get charged back to
Yeah.
The band shell project?
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Okay, thank you for that.
But we do charge like blowing out of the sprinklers, we include that all into the Rome Town Center because at some point it's just keeping up the Rome Town Center maintenance.
Okay, question on the banners and the flags. If those are purchased by individuals, why is there a budget amount in here for $1,000? People,
The flags are the American flags that
Oh.
and the state flag, and we use banner as a general term because like when we did the winter banners, we as a town purchased one too and had our logo on it.
got it. Okay,
So
thank
we
you.
could also then, if we did veterans banners and maybe the town wanted to sponsor a veteran or had a veteran on staff and wanted, then we would be able to utilize those funds to purchase it.
All right, and when you talk about reseating around the band shelter, you're talking about the gazebo?
No, around the
Oh,
band
the new
shell,
band shelter, the
where all
pavilion.
the truck traffic has been there and all.
So why is that in here and not the pavilion, park pavilion project? As a finishing, like a final checklist item?
We can move that 2,500 to
Plus
the-
fertilize the great lawn and, I mean, wouldn't those be like final checklist items?
That's a yearly,
for-
that's a
Yeah, the
yearly thing.
fertilizer is an annual maintenance item on all the lawn. all
We could
the-
move the seating over. I think, At our Parks and Rec meeting on Monday, we're gonna ask to see if we can get volunteers to do this reseeding, and if that's possible, we'll just ask Brad to purchase the seed for us and we can spread it and rake it in ourselves.
But still, though, the cost of the seed will be expensive, right? I mean,
It's not cheap, yeah.
it's not cheap.
But we
I
can
mean,
move
I would
it-
think that should.
Probably
Expensive.
took in,
Yeah.
probably around $500, I would imagine.
Okay, I think that would be. The one thing about fertilizing too, the question I have is that the grounds there, mulch for the playground, we also need it around the trees, and some of those trees need to be trimmed. Where does that expense go in here? That's taken care of a little bit better where the gazebo is and around the Veterans Memorial. It got so weedy, the dandelions were so, I mean, it choked out the beautiful grass we used to have there. They really need, I know, lean, mean,
It needs a
You-
crabgrass preventer in the spring and also
Yes.
broadleaf weed
yes, and
treatment
they
during the
didn't
summer.
apply anything this year at all. It was horrible.
We didn't in the spring. We will, if the board is comfortable with that, we can in the spring. And then the flower piece is just a miscommunication as we transitioned away from the master gardeners, so we will be better.
Oh, the flower
prepared for
thing
that.
is, we appreciate what you did for the flowers around the monument and that's great, and the flagpoles, but I'm talking about how weedy it got and
Yeah.
just around the playground and that. There was no weed preventer, and it choked out that very nice grass we used to have in the gazebo, like around where the farmer's market is. And then just like the, mulch around the different trees and how the trees need to we just need to keep that up. And then in the sidewalk, the weed cracks, if Brad can just keep, our staff a little more attentive to the weeds too. It's just the upkeep. So where does that budget item, do we need to allow for money? Where would that come in here on this budget?
So we do have funds in there for the trees landscaping material and for that mulch. So I mean, I think it's covered in a variety of things, but it's all gonna come out of that 39,000,
39,000 up.
out of that operations.
So will you have mulch for the playground on there? I've heard people discuss is this just regular wood mulch that you're putting in the playground area?
See, little kids get splinters and that,
I mean, I've heard that from other people too, but it's worth a consideration for future forecasting to replace that type of wood mulch with something else, like that rubber mulch or a rubber base, something that is
The best thing you could go for would be the poured rubber surface.
right.
You don't wanna know how much a poured
Yeah.
rubber surface would
We
cost.
know how much it costs.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
very
there are options,
You
but
know,
it's something to,
Pea gravel is not a good choice.
no, that's
don't
terrible.
they have that, don't they have, Bill,
That's-
you might know, and
the-
you
the
figured
people-
out on
The little
parks.
kids pick up the pieces of rubber mulch and eat them.
Or throw
Do
them.
they really?
Yes.
Or-
Yeah, schools, we've been advised, schools have been advised to not have the chopped rubber mulch, because the kids will ingest them.
Well, then don't they try to ingest the wood stuff too, or they know the
Wood-
difference?
Wood is
Wood is
wood's
digestible.
biodegradable in the digestive system.
If they ate that, it would come out. But I think
be
it's
honest.
something for to
This is
to
why
just
Jamie
kind of
chooses
make,
not to have a.
Take me out.
Oh, my Lord.
You're owning this.
it's, I
Okay, well,
think
whatever,
worth
we
it
know we need
for-
something other than wood chips, so
people
you
to
figured out at
understand
Parks
that-
and Rec, you two. You put that in your,
He's been planning on bark mulch for years and no one's had a problem with it.
There aren't
Well, I
many
think
other
they've had a problem with
There's
it.
no-
There
That aren't-
there just
that
weren't
aren't
other
as ex-
And how much
options.
bark mulch do we have sitting out there at the
When you're-
transfer center
when
right
you're
I
now?
looking
know.
at- When you're looking at trying to save dollars, don't go away from this right now.
No.
all right, okay, thank
So
you.
if I could finish my point, it all
Yes,
got off track.
sorry.
So my point
Rabbit
was,
hole.
I think it is worth it for people who might be listening, who care about this, to know that we're aware that bark mulch is perhaps not the best product to have in a playground, but it simply is not feasible to replace it at this time with anything
Yes.
else.
I would say
And-
it's the best playground surface we can afford at this time.
Yes,
Thank
so
you,
that's
Supervisor
my
Cole.
option, that's just my statement on that, because I've had it brought up to me several times that has to go. And I'm like,
It was brought up at the court meeting.
right.
Yes, it
And at the
was.
Brought up
court
at the
meeting,
court
it was
meeting.
brought up as well,
Yes.
so.
And just take a look at our transfer site. We're blessed with tons of bark and it will be mulched up for the playground until we can afford different. So thank you for
Eat
appointing,
it if they want to.
I'm sorry I
and
said
pass
that.
it on your own time. Alrighty then, moving right along. Alrighty, anything else on the Rome Town Center budget that we might have lost sight of because of a wayward discussion?
Well, did we decide we're taking out part of that 2,500 for the reseeding around the band shelter?
Yep, the 25 will go to parks, yep.
Okay, so we'll
Is
highlight,
the Solaris charge, is that an emergency phone or something?
No, it's our wireless that we have on the,
Steve.
Oh, gotcha,
Bathroom.
okay, okay.
might we, so that's for the Wi-Fi then you're talking about? Can we just, maybe for a note, can you put on their Wi-Fi so that we,
sure, I can do that.
that's great, thank you.
And the LED lighting, is that required that that be upgraded? Because I know there's been changes in lighting requirements.
I don't believe that we're under a requirement, but it would be energy cost savings, and
Okay.
it's just time. As they
Okay.
go out to get them updated, it makes sense.
We went through the whole thing though over there with the streetlights 2 or 3 years ago and did a lot of bulb
Fuses.
replacement, I think.
Yes, I don't know that, it was a lot of fuses that we had to replace, because we were having a lot.
We had a
burn
lot
out
of
on
lights that
those.
were out, I remember
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are broken too, so will this include replacing the glass on, okay, or the plexi or whatever?
We will try. They might not be exact matches, but we'll try. And, I mean, we have, again, another new shipment of Christmas decorations coming, so we want to make sure that our lights look nice.
Yeah, okay. And then the last question I have is the RTC sign maintenance. Now, I understand we're going out for rebids on that, so, because our last bid is no longer, you have 20,000 in there under 2023.
Yep,
Then
and
we
I-
do have some of that from our Vibrant Spaces grant that's supposed to go through. So how does that impact, that's gonna get spent out of there now this year yet?
That will get spent this year, yes.
Okay.
We had to take a class 1 notice because of where we came in with estimates. But I believe our updated estimate is still, it's 22.5, so, which is where we were at. And 10 of that can come from Vibrant Spaces.
Because that's all we got for Vibrant Spaces for that sign,
For
right?
signage,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, perfect. Thank you very much. All right, so, any more questions on that one, or did we get a motion in a second on this?
Move
All
to
right,
approve the Rome Town Center budget revenues and expenses as presented, minus
No.
the 2,500 for the reseeding of the band shelter.
I'll second that.
okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Minter of the Rome Town Center budget minus the $2,500 for the reseating around the band shelter and the additional Wi-Fi down by the Solaris. Second by Supervisor Bauerheit.
I have one thing before
Oh,
we get away from the
discussion?
Rome Town Center. I have a question for the chief. No parking, are we gonna need to place no parking signs on Rome Town Center across from the apartment building? In order to have snow plowing? Because they're parking out there every night.
I think, if it snows 4 inches, they can't park there under the current ordinance, cause that snow emergency.
3.
The 3 inches that goes into effect, so they.
Then
can't park.
we don't need the sign,
And I- no,
because we're not towing, so.
Are there not enough
They just
parking,
get cited if they're parked.
are there not enough parking spaces in the apartment units over there?
I don't know if the garages are way in the back and they just don't wanna walk that far, so they park.
That's
right
probably what it is, yeah.
Well,
I don't know what it is, I just know it's happening.
Convenience and visitors.
Brad has never said anything last winter. I know they were parking during the summer like they are now, and I never got any
Okay.
complaints from Brad that it was,
That's-
ours were in the
As long as it's not a problem, before we get away from this, but, fine.
are you leaving us?
No.
Oh, all right. So, end of discussion? Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so moving on to buildings and grounds.
Buildings and grounds, you are gonna see an increase, we can talk about why that is. So proposing that almost 250,000 of levy. Levy is the major contributor to buildings and grounds. We do get some rental fees for other things besides the gazebo and the band shell. Town hall, if people would rent out the kitchen or town hall. This is also where you're gonna see, after our conversation with Amber, the $4,000 lease for Solaris is in revenues for buildings and grounds. So, part-time wages, again, I did include that 5% in here, and we do have some health insurance costs. Their operations, again, it equates to that 16%, but that's really just the additional cost of how things are going up. Our contracted services, that would be really our HVAC. We do budget every year to do some carpet cleaning, our fire suppression systems, utilities, and then capital outlay is where you're gonna see that increase. We talked at town board about some of the remodeling projects that we wanted to do, mainly the hall here and the facade and parking lot at Station 2. And it was recommended at that time that we put together those more realistic numbers and bring those back as part of budget. So next year, out of capital outlay, we would be looking at seal coating our parking lot. It's just time, it needs to be done. That landscaping that we've been talking about in front of the building, we always do a little bit for interior painting. We'll have an air conditioning unit that needs to be replaced on this building. And then for the facade on Station 2 and the parking lot improvement, $117,162. That's more realistically based on the estimates that we received this year and what it would take to replace that parking lot. It would be smaller than it is now. It would remove the underground storage tanks that we have out there that are no longer needed, and it would paint that parking lot as our designated helicopter landing spot.
Well, as nice as those two projects are, if we are looking at trying to protect our employees' take-home pay with potential adjustments on the health insurance and things like that, I would rather pay our employees than put rock on the front of that fire station.
That's a good starting point, good talking point. I have a question. You have, a zone system that we did this year for 2023. And now we're looking at an air conditioner needing to be replaced.
Yes.
So that was not part of the zone system, I take it.
No, zoning is the piping and controlling the thermostats.
Okay.
This is the actual unit. It's just time for the unit on the roof to be replaced.
Okay, just wanted to, okay.
Good news, it might reduce the utility bills a little bit because it'll be more efficient than the old unit that was up there. It's not gonna be a great savings, but what we
And-
found when we did ours is a little bit of savings.
And I noticed now we're talking town hall landscaping, and we had originally asked for that bid to come back from DMC.
BCM.
Or, I'm sorry, dyslexia set in, I guess.
And we
Sorry.
did receive that bid back there.
For a limited bid,
Yep.
and what did that come back as?
I would have to go grab that paperwork. We were gonna bring that back to the next town board meeting.
And now with it being later in the fall, I did receive a message from them if it was gonna come up on our agenda, and I said we could look at it, but they said now, with their season getting busier with the brush pickup in the towns of Big Flats and Monroe, they'd be too busy, and the plantings would be better for the spring anyway. Being in the spring, being in next year's budget would be better for those plants anyway. So, depending on what that is, I don't know, that 15,000, that's over what we were originally looking at anyway for a number. I think we were originally looking at 12.
12 was just for replacing the rock.
Yeah,
I think we take that out for this year.
well, and for next year, but I mean, 2023, you mean?
That's why we were having the conversation, because it was more than we anticipated. We didn't have
Right.
budgeting for the landscaping.
And we don't know what they came back at for the limited plan.
I'd have to go grab that information, but we can talk about it as,
Well, if we're gonna look at this budget, would you be willing to go, just so we can see what that number was, please, Jamie? That'll give us a chance. I'm gonna get a,
Can we can I ask for a break?
yes, we can take a 5-minute
Thank you.
recess. All right, thank you. Turn your mics off, folks.
I did.
Library is a separate budget, because we set the library budget as a library board, and then I bring it to the town board. So, that's coming, but we had to wait.
Wouldn't there be economy of scale, like the cleaning supplies,
Oh.
that your librarian doesn't have to purchase them?
Well, we are doing that, So they have Cintas here that brings in like the mops and the brooms and the
Okay,
rugs.
so they-
We're gonna have Cintas over there next year.
Okay,
Right,
that's what I.
right, yeah, I'm looking at all that. We just had to wait, we had our library board meeting last Friday, and we didn't, you know,
You don't contract for snow plowing, do you?
no, town does that.
That's why I wanted to make sure that that was.
Pretty
happening.
sure, yeah, no, they're trying to do more, because it is town property.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
it's statutorily, it's a separate, you know, it's
And
something
for
like one water
years,
utility.
they were cheap.
Well, yeah, they were.
No, you're on top.
Yeah, trying to be on top of it, but we couldn't do, I just asked that, we didn't wanna do library budget today because we didn't have a chance. Without,
You're not ready to look at
without knowing that, well, the big budget over there is payroll.
Yeah.
Without knowing payroll and health insurance, we really couldn't, the rest of the library budget is minuscule compared to payroll and health insurance. That's like all budgets, you
Right,
know.
I was just gonna say, the whole thing is.
Other than
Contingent
roads,
on that.
you know, you get any other thing, your payroll's gonna be, but I gotta talk to Chief about Voight also. I get him together with my IT guy.
Please remember that it's still recording.
I know.
Don't go to that.
Why? That's okay. I didn't say anything bad about you.
Oh, me?
I didn't say anything bad about you either.
You know, I think we could get planters and then have, you know, people, see the ladies group that used to be the master gardeners, they've kind of all dissipated now because they were,
All right, I got 1 hour. I got a meeting at 7.
well, they, well, like Pen, well, they kind of retired, you know, those ladies were all getting older and, you know, and so
We're
kind
almost
of
to the end of
retired
the
that whole
budgets.
group.
What's her name, Jean?
Jean Osgood, and then there was Pen, she lived in my old neighborhood, and,
These are
you
not
know,
roads.
so, I mean,
Easy one.
those ladies aren't getting any younger.
Now they left.
I need to stretch my legs.
Have another meeting
What
at
is this?
7 o'clock tonight, too.
Which one?
I'm gonna resign as the treasurer of the Adams County Snowmobile Association.
Are you really?
Oh, yeah. Their meetings are the same night as the town board meetings. They moved this
Oh.
one back. I don't know if they moved it back so that I could be there and they're gonna try to talk me into staying. I'm not sure.
Oh.
But they moved it. I just,
Does Lori go to that one too?
sometimes, but not very often.
No?
She's got so many other things going on.
I know, I haven't seen her in like forever.
I don't either.
That's what retirement will do to you.
At least for now, until I'm done with all my training and stuff, because
How you doing on your clerk boot camp?
We're gonna boot
It's
camper on
going,
Monday. We're gonna
it's
boot
like
camper on
trying
Monday
to
too.
figure out what to prioritize, cause everything's coming right now.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was kinda doing elections and now I shifted to board of review. Every time I try to watch the board of review tape at night when I go to bed, I fall asleep. But I did start doing
That
some
would not be
reading on it.
surprising.
I did do some
As we're being
reading on
recorded,
it.
we'll admit that watching those training tapes is sort of boring.
55%.
But now I'm doing training with, you know, like the budget and the levy. There's just so much all at once. I love it. And a lot of it's starting to click quicker than I thought it would. Like the budget today kind of started making more sense to me. Like it really, really, few things fit into place better for me.
Okay, so this is my 3rd term on the board, so it's my 3rd time through budget, and
I'm proud of you.
it makes more sense now in year 3 than it did in year 1.
Yeah.
Year 1, I hardly spoke up at all during the budget hearings.
Year 2, you spoke up like twice. when
Right.
I was on the board with you.
Right, right.
I'm like, speak up.
Now, I feel much more comfortable, you know, I know how the numbers fit together.
Well, yeah, well, I was
It
so,
takes, just like the audit.
It takes a couple years.
well, even like where the taxes fit into, where the property taxes fit into it all. And I'm like, okay, so I know our budget is for this much, but this is only for this and why, and then I went, oh, wait a minute, and Jamie went, where did you think it came from?
I understand, you know, even like.
I never knew it was there in that place, you know?
There was a time where it's like when Phil was chairing that, I'd be the only one like going through the audit, asking questions, and I'm like, hi guys, so good. Am I the only one that speaks the language here? Ask questions, you know, and it's like, I know.
No, I don't mean now when Phil, before, oh, I was very happy, but I mean, before, nobody was, for years, nobody would say anything about the audit, it's like, okay.
Well,
You gotta have at least one question.
Well, and I think it, like in my case, it helps in me, because I run a $6 million a year business.
Yeah.
So my budget there and this
Well, all you
budget
gotta
here,
do- Yeah.
does the budget speak the same language? I just have,
No,
we just have taxes and I have tuition, a budget.
Ah.
Budget is a budget,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right,
you're
and
right,
if you
but-
raise here, you have to cut here unless you wanna raise your income.
Yeah, but all you guys gotta do is watch all the Queen's horses, just once. Oh, just once.
I recommend it, really good.
Just once, watch it.
At two of my trainings, at the first one they told me to watch it and I thought whatever, the second one, when they said it, I said I better watch this.
It's a 6-hour
mouth
difference,
dropped.
so it's
Even,
not-
you watched it? Even DJ watched it, and we were like, holy crap, I wouldn't even be that smart until I realized, how much does this woman make? And she had a motor coach like that, and I'd be happy with like 10 campers.
It was like $1 million on motorhome.
And then the neighboring community goes, you people have a problem.
You're Frank?
Okay.
Are we ready?
Pulls up
Where's
with
our
his
attorney
Cadillac.
And quarter horses, and I'm like, okay. Oh, wait a minute, we need that.
Do we need it?
Attorney Flanagan.
What, do you wander off?
He's on the phone, I hear him
No,
talking.
he's
No,
talking.
second.
He's
Oh.
talking.
No,
I think I was talking with someone.
Don't let the chief go, he's not here to talk to him. Now that we're done with IT, buddy.
I think he's
Has anybody ever had a crown that you bit right and it irritated the roof of your mouth?
I've been lucky enough to have one yet.
yeah, there's a bunch of them.
No, that's why I go to Milwaukee to get my crowns.
Oh gee, thanks for telling me now. It's only my second one and I was like waiting and I'm like, maybe just hold it to you.
I go to a crown specialist, I've got 4 of them.
I've got 4 or 5 too, yeah.
Oh, you really, and you've never had a problem? This one is just like rubbing them.
Once they fit it and you agree to it, it's been fine always.
Make sure you go to their dentist, the last
Well, I've
dentist I
got
went
this
to.
Yeah, we're back,
She's just fine.
and I expire as a pumpkin in less than an hour.
All right, let's go.
Okay, we're back. Yes, sir. Okay, we're back. Buildings and grounds.
Landscaping to install plants in landscaping design with 50 perennials and 9 shrubs and 1 ornamental tree, stone to be multicolored, river rock, and aged brown and black mulch, just under $8,000, $7,958. So just under.
7,958.
Yep, and again, that's just for the main entry.
Out here in front,
Yes, just the main entry.
around the side. Oh,
Yep.
did he draw a picture again too, Jamie, or no?
There's a picture, but it looks very similar to the one, because this has the police department on it too.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see how this goes across the whole building, but what we're really talking about is
Just
just
the entryway.
the entry.
That's not bad.
A lot of money for the
Did we
entryway.
spend the
Just the
$15,000
entry?
that was in this year's
Just
budget
the
for
little
facade and
alley to
parking
walk
lot
in the
fire
building.
too?
No, it's across the front too.
No,
you
no,
guys.
no,
Spend
just
that
the entry. The
So
drawing
we could
is the old
theoretically,
drawing.
at the next town meeting, authorize use of the unspent $15,000 Fire Station 2 facade and parking lot to pay for this landscaping here.
Say that again.
You,
They're saying, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I had asked the administrator if we had, there's $15,000 budgeted in 2023 for Fire Station 2. It has not been spent.
Right.
So I'm saying, could we look at taking that $15,000 from the fire 2023 and encumbering it, or whatever the word would be, to go towards that landscaping project here at Town Hall in 2024?
potentially, but you don't have a revenue for a carry forward.
Okay.
Buildings and grounds doesn't carry forward.
But I
So,
wonder if under the audit thing, where they had, those restricted things that can't be spent, we write them a check, or we tell them that we're gonna spend, then
Yes.
that money would
It's-
go into that
yeah,
pot of, these monies are already spent.
Melissa would have to work with the auditors to create a revenue for prior year proceeds. And to
Why not
put
just
that
get it
back into
done
the
this
budget
year?
Next year.
Sounds like they can't do it though,
Can't do it
from
this
what,
year.
Why not?
doing the same.
And I guess I would like to make a
It's
comment.
too late, the plants might
Yeah,
not.
No, it's not too late to plant. Fall's a great time to plant.
It's
I
what the
just-
landscaper recommended.
It's
So
what,
he
it's what
doesn't
the
have time
Irwins
to do it.
recommended.
He has no
The
time
Irwins
to do it.
recommended because they're really busy now with brush pickup for Big Flats in Monroe. And the plants that they suggested for that drawing are better planted in the spring.
And just so we know, this drawing, I think,
Just to clarify.
is just the entryway walking in. It's not in front of the building. It's strictly just the path leading up to the door.
Around the front main entry and offices to the north side door. So it would be, this would be the north side door, so it'd
So
be
go all
just
the way across
this.
the front of the
Okay,
building.
yeah,
here.
That's what I thought she
Okay,
said.
that's a
okay.
little better then.
But then, I would like to say, if we're gonna use that money there, I wanna make a point that if you've ever been here when they land that helicopter, and there's always been a concern, this is not the best and safest place to land a helicopter, depending on the type of emergency that it is. It's always been recommended that the safest place is the helipad over at Station 2, but depending on where the accident occurs, it varies, right, Jamie?
It does.
Yes, and
But
so
the parking lot at Station 2 now, we wouldn't. have
it's
land.
not equipped for a helicopter to land. So the thing is that I would be concerned spending money on landscaping before we would get that helipad repaired. And I'm just throwing this out there for consideration that I know he's very annoying. That would get repaired first for emergency landings as the population on that side of town continues to grow. Be repaired first before we would consider landscaping, but I don't know how much that would be just for that particular parking lot. Do we have that figure?
Yep, so, the facade remodel.
No,
is-
not facade,
But
parking lot.
I'll do all three.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
tell you how I got to the 117. Facade remodel, 34,662. Parking lot, 75,000.
Oh,
Removal of those tanks, 7,500.
oh, I didn't realize the parking lot was, so it's completely pulverizing the parking lot and
Base, because we would, I mean, given what a helicopter and the
Yes,
we
yes,
gotta go
understood.
3.5.
understood. 3.5 inches for the helipad, yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. So if we would spend any of that money at all, I would prefer having, my opinion would be the helipad for the helicopter versus, we could live with rocks for another year. Granted, we want our building to look nice, but could we possibly buy 3 planters for $75 each? But just my thoughts, throwing those out there for consideration. Other thoughts?
So if we don't spend the 15,000 this year, where does it go then in next year?
Back to general,
It just goes back into general
Yeah.
fund into that, the unassigned revenues
correct,
pile. And then it could be reassigned at that point in time,
potentially,
potentially, or saved.
yes.
Okay.
Or spent out of general.
Or we could do much like what we thought about, say, with the server, where we just took $16,000 worth of server out of the budget. We could take the landscaping out of the budget, and perhaps this other out of the budget. And then if we decide in March that we really, or February, whenever we need to get on their schedule, that we really wanna do the landscaping, we could dip into that fund if we felt it appropriate. Or we could decide at that point in time, no, we're not comfortable dipping into that fund, and we'll just push the plants to the next year.
Aren't there people who would volunteer to do this from a gardening club's perspective or something like that, if we funded the plant purchases of it?
I think
Well,
it's more
Melissa,
work than that.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to speak or not?
Yes, I mean,
I mean, I think it could easily be done by other people besides a professional for a lot less money.
Yeah.
we were just talking about master gardeners, and there was a really active group that worked at the library. And I think they started to disseminate as they're getting older, but they could maybe set us on the right path with people that do that, because the library group, she left now, but they do have people that meet there in the summertime. Maybe they could put us on we would do that. We'd help in the summertime.
I think maybe if you think back when Mike Miller was here, he had the same idea, and he had that group come in, and if I remember, they planted some things
Well,
out
those
there.
were plants, yeah.
They all died.
Yeah.
Nothing worked. It looked junky. It looked like somebody did it on the cheap. So I'm in favor of just having rocks or doing something right, but I think right now is probably not the time. Spend a lot of money on that.
Agreed.
Because, I think we're gonna have some, increases in people's situations with the assessments and all of that.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
going to cause people to say, where are you spending our money?
I agree with you there, absolutely.
So-
And I do have to say, as far as the facade on the building over at Fire Station 2, I did take a ride over there. It doesn't look very good, but it doesn't look any worse than our sign in front of the Rome Town Center. It's the same type of rock. It's not crumbling, but it's not in the it's not in the best of shape, but it's not in the worst of shape. But if we were gonna replace anything, I think it would be the helipad, and it can land there, worst case scenario, but
Is the parking lot beyond repair of patching and sealing?
Yes.
It's pretty broken up.
it's broken up, but if it was desperate and somebody needed fight for life, I'm sure they would land it there. If somebody needed fight for life and the accident was right there, I'm sure they would find a way to land that helicopter there.
It's more a chief question in every situation, but it's not safe.
Okay.
And if we're gonna replace the parking lot to make it landable by the helicopters, I'm assuming that those tanks are underneath the current parking lot?
We get them out of there.
Right, but,
Yes,
but I mean,
exactly.
but you're not gonna replace the parking lot without getting rid of the tanks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that parking lot, it would be smaller in scope than it is now, cause it doesn't need to be quite as large as it is, and so that also, you know, lends to having some lawn repair that will have to get taken care of too.
Did you say those tanks were extra, Jamie? That was the other 75?
So you're at 82.5 to do that.
Yeah,
So.
okay.
alright.
Yeah.
I'll move that we accept the Buildings and Grounds budget and revenues as presented with the removal of the $15,000 for the town hall landscaping and reducing the fire station 2 to 82,500, involving the refurbishing of the parking lot and removal of the unneeded underground storage tanks to make it capable of landing a helicopter safely.
That'd be 90, not 82.5. How'd you get to 82.5?
75
and
plus
7,500.
Because we're not gonna do the facade.
7,500.
Facade is dropping.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. I had 15 instead of 75.
Oh, yeah, that would do it.
Okay, would you, okay,
do
you-
think
did
that's-
you get that all?
Second.
I can get it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Capel, for the Buildings and Grounds Department budget for removal of the town hall landscaping of 15,000 and a reduction in the Fire Station 2 facade and parking lot improvements to, what was the total?
82.5.
2,500.
82,500. But that would include the parking lot improvement with the removal of the
Tanks.
tanks underground. All right, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, community donations.
Last one for tonight, took an easy one to end on.
Hoo-hoo.
Community donations is really aluminum cans. It's the funds.
It's what?
Money that we get for
Our
when we turn
aluminum
in the
cans.
aluminum cans that are put out at the transfer site.
Oh.
This is our only budget we present that's unbalanced, because we just keep the funds in there on an annual basis. We'll have, you can see our carry forward for this year was the 12.5, we're hoping to carry forward 12.3 and add about $3,500 worth of aluminum turn-in, redemption, refund, next year. And then I did this is where we take the Veterans Day luncheon, $1,500. We pay for the food for that Veterans Day luncheon, $900 in requests from organizations, and then for the last several years, we have done a sponsorship of the State of the Lake, so I did put that in here separately, because that's where we have taken the funds out of instead of taking those out of levy funds. So next year, we would have a budget of 15 and looking to spend 36.
Last year, did you spend and fully in support of the Veteran Day ceremony and luncheon? Last year, you did have a reduction in the number of lunches that you passed out. Did you spend the full 1,500?
No, I think we spent, it was around 1,900 to 1,000. We just asked the caterer for the bill, so whatever the food is, that we just pay the caterer direct.
Okay.
But whatever's not spent just stays in community donations for
Right.
the next year.
Right. And as far as the state of the luncheon too, we raised it up this year. We gave 1,100. There were a lot of very nice door prizes, which is what the majority of the money goes to.
I think that and food, I think a lot of the door prizes are donated too. But I
Okay,
think food is one of their big costs.
Which they ran short of.
which they ran short of.
And they gave us an invoice for actual expense. I'd have to look, but I think in the end, our sponsorship was like $1,082. That fly in here.
I know, he moved your way now. Are there two of them? Maybe they
there's more
should
than
mate
that.
and go away.
There's more. I had 3 of them sitting here all at once. They're pesky buggers.
We have a lot of money in, community donations, but that,
It's gonna increase. I started taking mine over this.
you drink a lot of soda.
I want a dumpster dive in some of those mixed recycling things and just grab everybody's cans out of there and
Alright,
go throw them
so
in the
do we wanna
dump.
leave, do we wanna adjust anything, leave this the same?
I move we approve the community donation budget revenues and expenses as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a we have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Bauerheit. Community donation budget remain exactly the same for 2024. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Did good.
Thank you.
Did real good.
So did we have anything else about budgets before we move on to, item number 10?
There's another item?
No, I mean, anything that you wanted to bring up about this sheet or?
Hopefully we'll bring it back on Thursday and have a number for you.
Okay, so, item number 10, discussion and possible action. Establishing the date and time for the annual budget hearing and special town meeting as Thursday, November 2nd, 2023 at 6 PM.
Move to schedule the special town meeting and annual budget hearing for November 2nd at 6 PM.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Capel to establish the date and time for the annual budget hearing and special town meeting as Thursday, November 2nd, 2023 at 6 PM. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do we want to continue with 11? Discussion only, future zoning and building department, planning, staffing, and structure.
So I did email out and then distribute it tonight, this agreement for building inspection services. I gave you the agreement that was highlighted. That's where it shows changes from what our current agreement is with our building inspector. At this moment in time, Dan Hansen, our building inspector, has been coming in 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 8:30 to 10 o'clock. And have been pleasantly surprised that people have been honoring that time as far as when they need to have building permits taken or have questions for Dan. It's been
So
okay.
it's working.
Yes. We do have a couple people that come outside of that time, but they haven't had issue with coming back because they wanna talk to Dan directly. So, that's been going okay. So that would handle the building inspection piece. We still have a zoning piece that's, hanging out there, but depending on how the board felt about the agreement, this does change his fees. We do get a 20% discount. This would move to a 10% discount and the $75 an hour.
So we've had some discussion, as far as filling in some of those pieces. We have Veer Bicker for the larger pieces. You were provided some information regarding planning and design services that could be provided to us. Also, as far as Von Briesen has a non-attorney that is very interested in our Rome Town Center that would work closely with, the CDA as well as Plan Commission, in helping us moving forward with the Rome Town Center, development, especially the pieces of property that we have there, and future developments with housing, that plat map, density issues, moving forward with the zoning hub piece as far as our code there. And he would be willing to come and talk to us and give us a presentation on what he can do for us. The conversation that myself, Nick, and Jamie had is a hybrid type position that would fill in on those types of pieces that Dan doesn't do. The CSO officer, Jamie can explain more as far as the pieces that that person does when it comes to nuisance and code enforcement, as far as dead brush, the pieces that that person has picked up as far as the short-term rentals. So if Jamie and Nick wanted to elaborate on the hybrid piece that we were talking about, and then I actually got some information from the person that had applied for Plan Commission. I had spoke to him about Board of Appeals because his application was late for Plan Commission and he didn't qualify for the interviews that we'll have next week. So he might even be interested in that hybrid piece. So, but if you're willing to explain what we had talked about for the hybrid piece.
Yeah, so, thank you. I think Chairwoman had given a good overview of kind of the lay of the land, so to speak, with building and planning and zoning. I'll say all three of them because they're kind of all three as part of this conversation. So just as a recap, as she was stating them, I was writing them down, and I think it's a good one to know, kind of the pieces in play as we start to talk about what a hybrid might look like. Vierbecker, big projects. Von Briesen, potentially Rome Town Center. Dan Hansen, proposal here for minor zoning. On the back page has a definition of, a general definition at least of what minor zoning would be considered. And CSO officer right now for enforcement. One thing that's in here that I think is, I'm just going to use Mr. Hansen's proposal as a reference point, but it's going to exist regardless, is what isn't here is a central person. So we're still needing a central person to, in which to pass these pieces through and really be that, like, that glue, yeah, is a good word for it. And I think that was what Chairwoman had mentioned as a possibility. There's some interest maybe as we would perhaps look to find that person, but I think that we have a number of pieces that could exist to build this department. At least whether it's interim or long-term. I think the other piece that I would just make a note of is one nice thing with a hybrid model is that as you're putting the pieces in, you have some flexibility there from a couple of different standpoints. One, you're putting pieces in, if I keep that analogy, you're putting pieces in that plays to strengths. You're not because nobody is going to be an expert on every single aspect of zoning. That's an important piece because there's a lot involved with planning and zoning. There just is. We've had those conversations a number of times, in the recent past, but even over the last 8 years. Nobody's an expert in this. There's a lot of details, granular details at times, right? And so with a hybrid model, you can put in play pieces that have strengths in certain areas, and a good example of that is the Von Briesen individual that may have a real interest and a real expertise in like a town center type development and planning and how we maybe move forward with that. And certainly Mr. Hansen has a unmistakable expertise in building, right? And I think what he's offering here is some of the zoning pieces that tie to the building. So I say that because that's kind of a lead into why a hybrid can be very helpful.
There you go.
The piece though that still is missing is that glue, is that contact individual. Now the contact individual can have a basic zoning or individualized zoning expertise. I don't know, you know, who those individuals would necessarily be or what that would look like. But if you went to a department structure like this, it would give you the flexibility to put in play pieces in and out as projects arise that lends to their expertise rather than a project coming up and maybe we have an individual that isn't
Jamie, for you.
real knowledgeable in that space or seasoned in that. So I think those were some of the discussions that we had
Those are for
as
you.
we kind of looked at what
Sorry.
conversations had taken place, what still needed to be decided, and so I'm certainly happy to speak to any of the other questions, but I just thought that would be a good kind of lead into this conversation, because I think you have had these conversations with specific pieces, and to see how that fits maybe with an overall department is why this is an agenda item today.
And the thing that we're running into is that there's a lot of planning and zoning positions out there, but we're finding that the people with the background that we're looking for, especially we found when we were looking at strategic planning with Bill, and even talking to some of these people like at Veerbecker, Von Briesen, even Sam, is that they're drawn to the larger urban areas. It's very hard to find them to come to a town like ours and spend, 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week for planning, or just the little piece of zoning that we have left at a desk like ours. They want to work for a big county. I mean, Adams County is even having trouble finding someone for a position such as that, especially for economic development. And it's one of the reasons we lost Emily. She's second in command at Wood County. It's quite an opportunity for her, even though we wrote her a very, very nice retention offer. We've got some really key people here that are interested in working with us. Again, Veerbecker's known us for a very, very long time. They work with very big developers, Sam Valley being one of them. Von Briesen, this gentleman, Sam, is very, very interested in our Rome Town Center and what he's looked at our design plan that we had developed a number of years ago. That's online. He worked for the city of Mount Pleasant. He's worked around the state and is very interested in what we're trying to do there and as we move forward. He's familiar with Tim, who's working on our zoning hub. So he's proposed coming in and looking at what we want to do there. So these are just some of the pieces that we have. And then Dan, just knowing the different people that the builders and developers that we work with, he's that other piece. So the one piece that we are missing, like Nick has mentioned, is that one piece here in the office that doesn't necessarily need to be here full-time is maybe administrative piece, as well as a person that answers that one piece that Dan doesn't do. So that's what we're trying to find right now. And there are people out there that can do that. We can maybe either find them through Midstate, or like this gentleman that just happened to apply for the Plan Commission, which has experience. I can't go into detail right now. I'm going to set up an appointment for us to speak with him. So we just wanted to bring these ideas forward. We have some time yet. And so moving forward, if you're open to this, wanted to discuss it with you and share these ideas. So, and other communities around us are looking for zoning administrators, planning people, and they're faced with the same difficulties we have. So it's nothing that anybody else is. Did you want to?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of bringing in the people as you need them with some expertise, rather than having somebody sit here hours unnecessarily. So I think it's worth taking a crack at it.
Do we need to act upon this agreement with Dan Hansen tonight?
No, it's a discussion only item.
Discussion only
Yeah.
item tonight, so this would be probably on next
Right.
week's agenda.
I think so, and just one other thing, and this is, so, just related to the contract, there was one thing that I did mention to Jamie. I do see, I was just looking at the highlight yellows, there is a piece, so along with that, we probably should take a look at our fee schedule. because there is a piece here with, 1 and 2 family dwellings, that does have an additional fee, just to make sure that we are, accounting for that in our fee schedule. We, if you're not aware, we largely mirror our fee schedule with, of course, the building, inspection costs.
I think didn't we add that? I
thought it
think
was
we
for commercial.
did.
I thought it was
Oh,
for
commercial.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, and so I would just, and maybe we look at it and maybe it's already there in our fee schedule, I'm not sure that it is. So I would just say that this would be for a future consideration, and you may also see the fee schedule, that would be the reason, just so we can mirror that, because we would want
Okay.
to have that as
You
well.
want to bring that up we'll put that on Thursday's, a placeholder for next Thursday then? I think that, I have a feeling we brought that sounds familiar, very familiar, but it might just be commercial.
Yeah, I know that, I know that Mr. Hanson had, built that in, to proposals for commercial. Maybe we also did that here, with residential, we just have to take a look at it.
Okay.
I just mentioned it because I saw it yellow on there, and so I look to those pieces and just make sure that, I don't wanna miss that in case, we don't have that in our fee schedule, and those fees are then, incurred, but not accounted for.
So I would say I overall like this idea. I agree that it's better just to use people as needed, but I guess before I could decide, I'd want to know kind of if there's a way to have a cost comparison. What will this possibly cost with these combined, it's,
So I can bring back, I've been keeping track of what the, Dan as a contracted service has been, and then what was budgeted for 2023. So we only have, 6 weeks of that.
sure.
But I can share that back with the agreement, and we could put that on as an action item. The piece that will be unknown is when you find that person that's your glue or your string, what that might be. We will put into the budget, probably into general, another part-time administrative position, which might be that person, but that's the part that remains to be seen. And the only thing I just wanna point out, so obviously with the town till November, I can do the November plan commission, but after that, that's a big piece. You wouldn't have
Sure.
anybody, if the next day you got someone that says, I have a comp plan change, that needs a 30-day notice and you need to be prepared for the next meeting. And that's the gap that you might experience that would be detrimental to whoever that person would be that's coming in to ask for that change.
And then you'd have the unknown of if you reach out to Von Briesen for services, how much that would be. I mean, there's some unknowns with, his hourly rate is there, but you wouldn't.
It said it won't exceed 5,000.
Yeah, it's a.
Oh,
there's
okay,
not to
okay,
exceed
maybe I just am not reading everything anymore, cause,
I
you
think
know.
a fiscal impact could probably be prepared for this idea
Yes.
Yeah,
with maybe
I think it would help.
Yeah, that's-
with two, I would call them two projections. One would be a projection with maybe a part-time admin kind of position. One could also be a full-time admin type position that then could also serve other departments. I think you could project this, I think, at least in a way that gave you a somewhat apples to apples, maybe Granny Smith to Gala apples.
As compared
But
to.
very
Fuji,
close,
or
I
Fiji,
think.
Fiji.
Very close, I think, and that at least would give you maybe a little bit more comfort in knowing what this might look like. And again, I'll say it again, that this can be interim and it can be long-term.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of
And
potential
try
with
it.
something like this. And I think you all could have a projection that gives you a better idea of how that might look and plug into the department.
See, that's what I like too, even if it's an interim thing that gets us through,
Right.
to try it out, because there's an opportunity too with graduates coming out of UWSP in December, as well as MSTC. So that gives us an opportunity, because even if you hired a new zoning administrator that has benefits, there's a cost involved there, even maybe health insurance, yet there's a new person that might come to us that involves training. Emily was new, out of college, that was inexperienced, that involved training. So at least that buys us some time in a temporary situation that we can try out with people that are, especially,
And we still have the money that was budgeted for
For that
the zoning
position.
administrator in the budget.
That's correct.
So that money still stays there
That's correct.
to be used for these puzzle pieces that we have here. I like the puzzle piece idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I think it's good. Continue.
And I think
Bring it
Nick can
back
also
and-
help us in the interim as well, which he has offered to do. Because he is also always at our plan commission meetings, so he said he would offer up
Yeah,
his assistance.
I can be, some glue there, right, is from.
For the
I-
yarn.
I can keep some of that, like, baseline, I think, through working already with Jamie on these things, being at the plan commission, and happy to help how I can.
Which we
So-
appreciate both of you for doing that, so,
So next meeting, we'll keep going on that.
yes. All right, sound good?
Yep.
All right. Item number 12, discussion only, review of the transition plan document for the administrator. So in preparation for Jamie's departure, we had started, the three of us, on a transition plan and had her, we gave her a list to start on, and she prepared this great document for review with all of our town board together this evening.
So if I read this verbatim, or if we went through it page by page, we'd be here another 2 hours.
Say,
So-
could we have
Yeah, so-
until next time?
Would you like this to, would you like that?
Like
Yeah,
to
that
go
would be
ahead
fine.
and read it
Yes.
at
Was
my
everybody
leisure, if
okay
you
with reviewing the document, and then we can bring it back to our next meeting with comments?
Yes.
I'd appreciate the time. to
That would
look
be
it over.
fine, that would be fine, I just wanted everybody to have a chance to,
Good.
okay.
This is freestanding page 4.
Oh, that
So-
was for the financial document to go with Jamie's document.
Okay.
Just, it goes with page 1 out of the financial document. If you look under weekly task, the very first box,
Got it.
where it says town financial policy, it goes with that box, so you know
Oh.
what it is.
Thank you.
That's
Second
where I had
asterisk,
asked,
okay.
yes, I asked Amber that question.
And I want to thank you, Jamie, for sticking with us through the budget.
Yes, thank you
because
very
That's
much.
kind of a above and beyond offer that you've made, so it's much appreciated.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for training Melissa and getting her on board, and thank you, Melissa, and I hope I'm talking slow enough for you.
I would just say generally that, this kind of transition plan is a real luxury to
Yes.
have with any departing position. It's not something we've always had with the departing administrator or high-level position. And so I would just, maybe, just say that Chairwoman has, and the administrator have worked hard to put together what I think is, going to be a great document to utilize as we transition some of these things into other positions and just make sure that we go on as business as usual when we have transitions in the departments, so.
Excellent.
Thank you, Nick, we appreciate that, and thank you, Nick and Jamie, for
Thank everybody for the
helping
hard
me
work.
work through this and town board, so. All right, so, let's see, oh, yeah, we're not done yet, we have to finish up here. Yeah, next agenda items.
Budget.
Budget, the
budget.
Oh,
transition
try
plan,
again, pick something else.
Zoning.
What departments do you plan on bringing in?
Yeah, what
for-
department's next?
Provided we can get the numbers done, I think next we'll do some of our big departments, police, fire, highway.
With that being said, Jamie, I know Brad really isn't technically need to do our road pacer readings until December 15th, and I know, but with doing some of that plan, I know we had a list of roads for next year, but also understanding that some of the roads we did last year, we know didn't necessarily need to be done. I'm hoping that he'll just maybe consider reevaluating some of the ones he has listed and consider the ones that we saw deteriorate further this summer. So some of the ones that maybe he'll give us a list, go out and see which ones he might reconsider. We're lucky that I'm thrilled that we're getting the one done by Woodland this year yet. So thank you, board and Brad and Jamie for figuring that out, that we could do that yet this year with the leftover monies from our borrowing. So I'm glad we're getting that done. But take a look at what we really, really should get done, because I know quarterstaff on over is a really bad one that's bad, and I think Rapids Trail is really deteriorated this summer with all the summer traffic, so please have them look at that one.
And way that I suggested was that he start with an updated 5-year road plan. We would bring that back as what that budget would be for next year, what that would cost us for outlay, and then we can have the conversation about what does that 5-year road plan look like? What does that dollar amount look like?
Yeah,
How,
that's really,
and do a back and forth.
Right.
But have that as a starting point of, in the 5-year road plan, what's on that list for next year?
I tell him our questions are not personal, so he doesn't get his back up right away. It's really, we want to focus on how we make this fix.
yeah. And thank you,
I know.
everybody, again, for that special road meeting, because it really made us realize that, you know, if we can get back on a regular cycle somehow, some way, granted, this isn't apparently gonna be the year that it happens, but I appreciate that he's taking a look at Akron and making sure that we crack fill and do that this year to keep us on that cycle with that. What does he need to do next year to get us on that cycle?
Yeah, to keep our regular maintenance of our
Yes.
investment that we've made.
We
Yeah.
put the parking lot in, so.
Yes,
Yeah, so we'll see how large the other agenda, because that's our regular board meeting items are. Police, fire, and highway are the largest of the three, but, so I don't know, we'll get through all three, but we would try.
all
That
right.
would keep us moving along at a good pace.
Just to note, I will most likely not be here on the 26th of September for the
Ooh.
meeting. So, no library that night, please.
Okay, do you really wanna
try to
miss, I
make it-
really don't want you to miss those 3 big ones, though.
Well, yeah, but I'll be here next Thursday, that's fine.
Oh, all
The
right,
Tuesday the 26th, I will not be here. I have a diocesan meeting in Neilsville and it lasts till 3. So depending upon if it actually ends at 3, I might make it here by,
You know we'll be here.
yeah, I might make it for the last hour-ish. I mean, okay, look, we started today at 3, ending at roughly 6. I could probably make it here by 5, but just don't count on me for being here on the 26th.
but that's when we're gonna do fire, police, and highway.
No, that's next
No,
Thursday.
Oh,
This
I'm
is
sorry,
Thursday.
okay.
Although fire and police, some of those might get carried over to that following Tuesday.
And next Thursday is 5 o'clock, usual time.
Yep. Yep,
26 is 3 o'clock.
26 is 3 o'clock.
Okay.
But again, it will depend on how large the other agenda items are too, if we get them all in.
All right. So, then we have, on the 14th, we have meeting dates and times, okay. So, any other discussion, questions, dates, times? All right, meeting adjourned.
6:06 PM.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I think we did good.